When Seneca claimed that the wise man is safe from injury, his friend Serenus asked, "What then? Will there be no one who will try to do an injury to the wise man?" "Yes," said Seneca, "they will try, but the injury will not reach him." He argued that the wise man is too far removed from his inferiors, so that nothing they would throw at him would retain its power of harm before it would get near him. He compared such pursuits to an army of bowmen and catapults trying to hit the gods. They would shoot high up into the sky, their darts would reach out of sight, but never reach the heavens and fall back on the ground. But despite Seneca's plea for inner strength and essentially becoming undefeatable toward other people's malice, Serenus argued that it would be better if no one wished to harm the wise man in the first place. And let's face it, if all of humanity would just stop hurting each other, wouldn't the world be a much better place? But Seneca disagreed and said, "You are expressing a wish that the whole human race were inoffensive, which may hardly be." Well, doesn't that remind us of the current state of the world, in which almost anything you say seems to offend someone, somewhere? While the idea of an inoffensive world may come from a good place, the Stoic politician Seneca saw that it's most likely unrealistic. People always seem to say or do things that offend others, a predicament that lies as much in the power of the offensive as the offended. However, the problem with Serenus' wish is that other people's actions are beyond our control. If we wish to exterminate all people's negative opinions, we'll be in for grave disappointment. There always will be assholes spouting offensive language, and the emergence of social media and massive broadcasting platforms like YouTube, where everyone and their mother can deliver their sincere opinions, has dramatically increased their visibility. And so, the number of people who get offended and demand others to shut up also seems to grow. Even though foul language may be offensive, hurtful, and often nonsensical, it'll probably occur as long as humanity is around, especially in countries that support freedom of speech. Hence, if we don't want to be offended, trying to shut up the offensive probably won't work. It's like carrying coal to Newcastle. Therefore, Seneca repeatedly emphasizes in his work that the key to not being offended, not being defeated by other people's words or actions, lies within ourselves. So, it's not about defeating those who offend us. It's about being undefeatable by these people, which lies within our power, according to the Stoics. The question is, of course, how can we pull this off? This video focuses on Seneca's stoicism, particularly regarding becoming undefeatable. When comparing the known Stoic philosophers from antiquity, the Emperor Marcus Aurelius is probably the most popular. His meditations are accessible and resonate with the reader, as they show an insight into his thoughts and struggles. His reflective nature, combined with being an emperor, creates a strong and clear archetype, which is also the case with Epictetus, who was a freed slave. In contrast, Seneca, though a significant Stoic figure, presents a more complex archetype. He was a statesman, philosopher, and dramatist. His varied roles contributed to different areas, such as literature, philosophy, and politics. Even though he had a prominent place in a Roman hierarchy, his power didn't reach the heights of Marcus Aurelius. However, he came close, as his authority over the empire was profound during Nero's first years of reign. Lucius Annaeus Seneca, also known as Seneca the Younger, was born in Córdoba, present-day Spain. His father, Seneca the Elder, was a famous writer and teacher of rhetoric, and his mother, Helvia, came from a prominent family. Seneca's education was in rhetoric, but philosophy truly grasped his interest. After a successful career in Rome, Emperor Claudius banned Seneca from Rome to Corsica due to accusations of adultery, where he remained for 8 years and where he wrote his famous consolation to his mother. Seneca created a variety of writings on Stoic philosophy. Aside from in-depth essays on topics such as anger, tranquility, and inner strength, he also wrote many letters containing profound Stoic wisdom. He wrote in Latin, which indicated his literary ambitions as a Roman, as most philosophers would still write in Greek. In this video, we'll focus on one of his pivotal works, the Constantia Sapientis, translated as On the Firmness of the Wise Man. As a Stoic, Seneca strived for a state of unperturbedness, a profound inner peace which external circumstances do not disrupt, or at least minimally. But from Seneca's perspective, what does it mean to be unperturbed? Is it akin to being an emotionless rock in the face of the whims of fate? Does it mean being completely indifferent toward the things around you, good or bad? In his work on the firmness of the wise man, Seneca described in great detail how the tranquil, equanimous individual, the sage, would respond to different situations, which we'll explore further in this video essay in depth. How does one become undefeatable? Seneca's views on this matter align with the general Stoic view of being tranquil and undisturbed in the face of the external world. Being unshaken by outside circumstances, undefeatable in the face of insults and assaults, the Stoics see as defining characteristics of what it means to be internally strong. However, that doesn't mean that the wise man is an emotionless piece of stone, letting events pass by in utter indifference, basically being dead among the living. Stoics aren't emotionless, which Seneca agrees with, as seen in his letters, especially the famous letter to his mother. There's room for emotion, and the application of reason actually evokes emotions, or at least specific positive feelings integral to the Stoic optimal state of flourishing. I've dedicated an introductory chapter to the Stoic view on emotions in my compilation book, Stoicism for Inner Strength, which contains the musings of a modern mind on this ancient philosophy. So, no, being a Stoic isn't being emotionless. Being undefeatable isn't about being as cold as stone. It's about avoiding what the Stoics named the passions when confronted with external circumstances. The passions are emotional responses to these circumstances that sprout from irrational thinking. These could be anger, or prolonged anger in particular, as a response to an insult, or prolonged and excessive grief because of loss, or strong desires and lust toward external objects and people. I've created an in-depth video about these passions if you want to know more. So the absence of these passions entails an unperturbable mind. From the Stoic point of view, a person is undefeatable if nothing in the outside world can shake his unperturbedness. Regarding adversity, being undefeatable means remaining uninjured in the face of unfortunate circumstances. Whether it's someone insulting you, your girlfriend breaking up with you, or someone punching you in the face. But when can we speak of an injury? What does it mean to be injured? In his essay, De Constantia Sapientis, Seneca often mentions injury. But what does he mean by that? When is someone considered injured? Is it when you're physically injured, for example, through assault? Or is it when someone verbally insults you and everyone is laughing at you as a consequence? Or are you injured, perhaps, when you suffer severe financial loss, or when you're subjected to illness? This may surprise you, but as far as Seneca is concerned, none of these things are injuries in themselves. The injury doesn't lie in the action done to you, be it an insult or physical attack, but in how we position ourselves toward this action. Seneca argues that what makes him a sage isn't that his circumstances don't allow people to attempt to injure him, and that his life is so secure and comfortable that he hardly finds himself in situations where he could encounter injury. Such a person may also be calm, not because of his inner strength, but because his life is so darn easy, devoid of difficulty. Put such a person in some difficulty he hasn't learned to bear, and his unperturbedness will probably fade quickly. It's like putting some spoiled rich kids, born with a silver spoon in their mouths, into the shoes of ordinary people. As their strength greatly relied on their wealth, is their character strong enough to continue flourishing? What makes a sage is his inner strength, the ability not to be injured, regardless of external circumstances. I quote, "In like manner you may know that the wise man, if no injury hurts him, is of a higher type than if none is offered to him. And I should call him a brave man, whom war does not subdue, and the violence of the enemy does not alarm, not him who enjoys luxurious ease amid a slothful people. I say then that such a wise man is invulnerable against all injury. It matters not, therefore, how many darts be hurled at him, since he can be pierced by none of them." End quote. According to Seneca, a wise man is beyond receiving injury. Whatever life throws at him, he will bear it calmly. The invulnerable is not that which is never struck, but that which is never wounded, he stated. Again, we cannot control whether or not the world will be friendly to us. It's utterly beyond our control. Even if we possess immeasurable wealth, power comparable to a Roman emperor, and influence over all existing media, we cannot control all human behavior. However, we can develop the ability to become invulnerable, or less vulnerable at least, to misfortune. How can we do that? According to Seneca, we can pull this off through patience, meaning a long endurance of the adversities we aim to conquer and trusting to reason. Let's take a look at different life situations and see how Seneca approaches these and how we could conquer them according to his ideas. In his work, Seneca tells us about Vatinius, a man he describes as born to be laughed at and hated. Vatinius was also a witty and clever jester who lacked any form of shame and apparently was under much scrutiny. According to Seneca, he had more enemies than diseases, but because Vatinius didn't care about what other people said about him and frequently applied self-mockery, none of his enemies could hurt him. In a way, Vatinius is a bit like Diogenes the Cynic, who was undefeatable by his enemies because he didn't care about anyone's opinion. As he didn't attach himself to anything, he could lose nothing. Being offended seems fashionable nowadays. Some people take pride in sharing with the world that something someone said hit a nerve, and they don't go out of their way to explain why exactly this is the case. It's probably coming from a good place, but not always, and their sharings are often based on how they think the world should be and how people should behave, perhaps believing that calling them out would change anything. Aside from this phenomenon, we generally see people not reacting well to insults. In Seneca's time, this was also the case. For example, he mentions slaves preferring to be flogged over being insulted, which shows how much people loathed it, something Seneca thought of as absurd and a sign of a weak mind and a thin skin, as an insult doesn't wound anyone, as opposed to, for example, the strike of a blade. Seneca came up with a highly straightforward and rational approach to being insulted, which he explains in this passage. Do these things befall me deservedly or undeservedly? If deservedly, it is not an insult, but a judicial sentence. If undeservedly, then he who does injustice ought to blush, not I. And what is this which is called an insult? Someone has made a joke about the baldness of my head, the weakness of my eyes, the thinness of my legs, the shortness of my stature. What insult is there in telling me that which everyone sees? End quote. Let's simplify this. If someone says something you don't like about you and it's true, then why is it an insult? According to Seneca, it's not. It's the truth. But what if someone says something you don't like about you and it's not true? Then again, why is it an insult? It's just nonsense. So the person who said it has more reason to be ashamed than you. For example, I'm a pretty short guy, and people have often made jokes about my height. I used to get very angry about this. How dare they humiliate me like that? Also, short shaming seems to be one of the rare forms of body shaming that's acceptable these days, which adds a sense of injustice to the injury. It's unfair. But Seneca would just wipe such arguments off the table and say, listen, man, what insult is there in telling you that which everyone sees? You're a short dude. People are simply pointing out the obvious for whatever reason. Well, probably because they're stupid. Don't let it get to you, Einzie, and you'll go from a short dude to a short king. End fictional quote. According to Seneca, the wise man stands above insults. If he lowers himself to being affected by them, he'll make himself instantly vulnerable. He won't feel safe anywhere he encounters people, as their words could harm or destroy him. Insults will be injurious. Words will be darts, piercing his body. His inner tranquility will depend on the whims of bullies and jerks, and he can only pray for them to leave him be. He might as well isolate himself from the human race entirely to prevent being harmed. Seneca's philosophy of firmness doesn't stop with insults. It goes much further than that. Being undefeatable in the face of mean remarks is only the beginning of the art. Being unperturbed when experiencing physical harm is next level stoicism. As opposed to insults, physical harm is an actual injury, the occurrence Seneca mentions so often in his essay. But when reading closely, it becomes apparent that physical harm, be it a bloody nose or a stab wound, still isn't quite what Seneca means by injury. Sure, we can deny that the body is injured, but despite this, the actual injury still occurs in the mind. Seneca states, "We do not deny that it is an unpleasant thing to be beaten or struck, or to lose one of our limbs, but we say that none of these things are injuries. We do not take away from them the feeling of pain, but the name of injury, which cannot be received when our virtue is unimpaired." End quote. A wise man's ability to endure suffering is mighty. Therefore, physical harm won't cause him distress, and the anticipation of it won't evoke anxiety. He remains passionless, unshaken by either pain or the prospect of it. With such an amount of inner strength, the wise man enjoys a significant advantage. People cannot use physical harm as a means of manipulation or making him do things against his will. Epictetus later worded it beautifully in one of his lectures, stating that someone could put him in chains and fetter his leg, but even Zeus cannot touch his free will. Considering the magnitude of physical pain, the way it makes us feel, the agony, the fear of encountering it that most of us experience, not being faced by it is very challenging to do. Having an undefeatable resolve not to speak while being tortured, for example, is something even superheroes struggle with, let alone the average person. So it undoubtedly takes practice and patience to develop, as Seneca states. Think that the wise man belongs to this class, that of men who, by long and faithful practice, have acquired strength to endure and tire out all the violence of their enemies. Seneca's undefeatableness doesn't stop with verbal and physical harm. And let's face it, one wouldn't be truly undefeatable if one could endure Nero's tortures and Cicero's sarcastic remarks that Vatinius was subjected to, but couldn't bear one's lover breaking up with him. From Seneca's point of view, a true sage remains steadfast in the face of any misfortune. He states, "He who says that the wise man can bear this and cannot bear that and restrains his magnanimity within certain limits does wrong, for fortune overcomes us unless she is entirely overcome." End quote. Seneca doesn't ascribe the wise the hardness of stone or iron. She does feel misfortunes, such as losing loved ones, but is conscious of her endurance. She may shed a tear or two after losing someone dear to her, but she'll rise superior to it and heal her wounds. Hence, after his banishment to Corsica, Seneca suggested that his mother grieve and let reason console her afterward. According to Seneca, trivial misfortunes the sage doesn't even feel. At most, he laughs at them. Beyond minor to major disturbances, Seneca challenges us to face what many consider the greatest misfortune of all: death. He not only saw the acceptance of death as a necessary thing to conquer, as it's an inevitable part of life, but he also argued that if we can overcome death, then other misfortunes would be easier to endure. He states, "If we accept with an undisturbed and tranquil mind that greatest terror of all, beyond which the angry laws and the most cruel masters have nothing to threaten us with, in which fortune's dominion is contained, if we know that death is not an evil, and therefore is not an injury either, we shall much more easily endure the other things, such as losses, pains, disgraces, changes of abode, bereavements, and partings, which do not overwhelm the wise man, even if they all befall him at once. Much less does he grieve at them when they assail him separately. And if he bears the injuries of fortune calmly, how much more will he bear those of powerful men, whom he knows to be the hands of fortune?" End quote. So, what do you think about Seneca's philosophy on being undefeatable? Have you experienced moments of strength and unperturbedness akin to what Seneca describes? Please let us know in the comment section. Thank you for watching.
Recon. Put you in the sickle for the harvest is right. We ain't down for wickedness, false prophets a lie. Woman to the wicked grass of blind the sight. Unquenchable flame, stars fall in the night. Shemayim snapped the scroll, mountains fled in the anger. Hills a flock of rams, skipping special forces, recon angels. Really by no labels, we bout labor for the souls. Wells up in infinite, waters coming forth. Spiritual revival, dehydration shall I pour. Kept the run down to the mouth, cool floor. Kingdom heaven in me is parts of the morbid head. Treasure like deep in you, key to the never end. We all a ray, a fragment piece of the sea sledge. Point of a center, he segment filled in with ether. Hit me on the end, you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covenant in Nehemiah, not Easter. We all a ray, a fragment piece of the sea sledge. Point of a center, he segment filled in with ether. Hit me on the end, you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covenant in Nehemiah, not Easter. Not a game, stolen the soul arrangement. Adversary in the details, mirrors and smoking angels. Incriminating emails, fake news, read the paper. Pimping who been printing, it's all designed to take ya. Division in your cells, almighty sustain. Ain't got how relying on nothing else. In trouble, it's all vapor, elder wind in the sails. The water, the whole rainbow, reclamation, just a vessel, a wrestle. Jonah, you came for. Stay mind, blow it holy. Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my way. Stay mind, blow it holy. Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my way. Force tremendous, Bill Adam breath, living dust, mushy for the enemy, burnt down like a Dutch. Once upon a distant, dirty sackcloth in the ashes. Truth don't grow with mischief, prayer get raised about the ashes. Save me from the mire, I would fell of not your pasture. Had you not an anchor, if you save me, I'll be thrown. Thorn to the thief, leech, mind to the corn. Stone in the sling, sing signs in the storm. Rock foundation, time echo with the north. Recon over game, wings fly with the force. All purpose type material to camouflage your course. Tiger stripe, orange, red drip from the source. We all array, your fragment piece of the sea sledge. Point of a center, he segment filled in with ether. He'll be on it then, you're passing the present teacher. Pre-sealed and covenant, Nehemiah, not Easter. Stay mind, dwell with holy. Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my word. Stay mind, dwell with holy. Lord, if they only knew how they controlling you, thought still a slave. Look how they holding you, enemy scoping you, word on my wing.
All right, we're back at it. I'm just going to bring Hefe right in with John. Let's not waste any time here. I got a bit of pain today, so I may be a bit reserved or out of character, whatever that means. Maybe not. You know, my adrenaline gets going and I override the warning system. We're feeding back. Hello, test. Yeah, you're feeding back. I think we're good now. Hold on. Yeah. All right, Hefe, what do we got? I'm talking to him. Who are you? What are you? Are you hearing voices? This guy John.
I hear you saying feedback according to who you're talking to.
Houston, we have a problem.
We always have a problem.
It's me, John. It's got to be me. I've decided. It's not everyone else. It's me. I've done what Mr. Slackcock cannot do. I'm admitting it here right now. Just get it on record, clip it. It's never been anyone else. It's always been me. Okay.
I'd like to get it out of the way right away. I'm a little fucking pissed that I'm your second favorite white dude now, as of yesterday. Oh. So, you know, I'm a little upset about that. I can't say that didn't hurt a little. You know,
Andy was rocking the belt with the high white shorts, and I think the Docker boat shoes, and he threw me $50. So, Andy, listen. You know, you know how I am, John, at the end of the day, right? I am half Italian.
Yeah, so, that'll move you up
I got to thank Andy for supporting this week, and Travis as well. All right, let's go, Hefe. I want you to read back that pitiful, disgusting, pathetic document that you sent me last night. I want you to read it over again right now with my eyes. I want you to imagine that you're me. and writing and speaking the way I do, you know, when I'm really focused and in alignment. I want you to critique what you're doing as me, like your AI me now. There's about 2 places at least I saw in there where you gotta, you know how I am. It's about the flow, right? It's got to flow. Anytime in that document where you get somewhere where there's resistance, it's caught up, it's not flowing, you got to reword it. You know, that's just from my perspective.
Okay. All right. I'll start.
Yeah, read it out
loud. By
loud.
definition, a four-walled venue. A court is by definition a four-walled venue. I am using this venue and I'm nominating the third party and impartial magistrate to hear this matter and preside over it. Ultimately, this is my court. I understand that I am moving this court as I am the only man here with an equity and interest in this matter. I require any man or woman with first-hand knowledge of the facts to come forward and give sworn testimony. Any second-hand knowledge is hearsay and is inadmissible and is stricken from the record.
2 ands right there. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's just for me. I'm not telling you how to write your document and formulate your claim. I don't like it's this and this and it's statement claim period, statement claim period, statement claim period, right? That's the flow of what you got going there. So any man or woman who comes forth in any capacity, I'd have to write it out and sit with it. This isn't the greatest venue. I probably should work with you more privately because it kind of takes the pressure off and I get to flow a little bit more. But okay, give me that statement that you just made again.
A couple sentences left. All right. Any
that was my
secondhand
main
knowledge
beef.
Is hearsay. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just make it 2 sentences then. I'll say any secondhand knowledge is hearsay, and maybe I'll say that. Any secondhand knowledge is hearsay, and without sworn testimony is inadmissible. It will be stricken from the record. How's that?
Okay. That'll work. And I don't know about stricken from the record. I mean, you can't necessarily control that or decide that. You could wish for that, but I don't even think that it's necessary to put in there what's going to be done or not done. You're setting the boundaries of how this game's going to be played based on common sense and the foundations of the law of the land. So if you're going to come forward or enter anything here, you got to have first-hand knowledge and you got to swear in. If not, then you're playing some kind of game, right? You know. So whether it's stricken from the record or not, that remains to be seen. But just communicating that it's not going to fly with you and that it's not legitimate, and that it's improper process and procedure is pretty much good enough for me.
All right, cool.
Let them come out in the open and say we're going to bring in folks in different capacities and try to do hearsay and speak secondhand garbage that can't be affirmed and won't be affirmed through testimony. Let them come out in the open and show themselves. You know, you set the barriers and the boundaries and the rules, and then you let them come out and try to break them and legitimize it.
All right. The next part, I propose an order for compensation in the amount of $5,000 per hour for the unlawful kidnapping and imprisonment. $1,000 a day.
I don't start putting numbers there because I can't substantiate that. The only way I'd be able to substantiate that is by using their precedent. If they're going to use precedent, they're going to do that. Just my belief. I can't prove any of this. I don't have as much experience as I'm getting at this time, right? As I will get to speak on it completely from experience. But I don't start talking numbers because it makes it about money at that point. Right. Let that be determined by the jury of my peers or whoever when we bring them in. You know, we'll bring in some Americans and let them decide if you got a right to put me in a box and pepper spray me for you know, or we'll let the administrator make a determination on that and then go from there. This is kind of the game, right?
That's what I actually have in the original. So in the original claim, I have a prayer for relief. And the only number I put in there was for the toe. compensation in the amount of $250 for the unlawful theft and subsequent towing of my automobile. And then everything else is to be determined at trial.
Yeah, I would just leave that.
Okay.
Any further compensation, I guess in quotes, will be determined later if necessary at all. I mean, again, are we, especially when you're not, you haven't had anything dismissed or discharged, it's like, either way. I mean, again, I'm kind of learning more and branching out at times, but I kind of leave it open ended. Hey, you tell me what you think that this is worth. I'm curious. How are we going to remedy this? How are you going to compensate? Is it even possible to remedy this completely? Or is it just another trespass that I'm going to have to chalk up to part of the game of life? And as a Christian, non-Christian, based on the ethos, right? Forgive those our trespasses and we forgive those who trespass against us. Guess what? Sometime in life, the people closest to you hurt you, fuck you over. You may not be able to get any result. So you got to chalk it up to the game.
And the process is the penalty. I mean, he's already been penalized. By the time he gets this resolved, the penalty's already been served. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, you're saying on his end or the...
Well, the process they put people through is the penalty itself. I mean, you may or may not go to jail at the end. You may be proved innocent, but still you're being penalized through the process itself. You may have to sit in jail for a couple of days like you did or whatever, but that you're already being penalized for something you've not done.
Yeah, I mean, part of being an honorable, good faith man is sometimes you don't get paid off for the shit that you lose. And then you got to have faith God's going to reward you in a different capacity for what you've suffraged with, right? What you've done suffrage for. There is no worldly guarantee.
And I'm talking about the state's process. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get that. But the reality of it is on either side, if you did a wrong or a crime, usually there's, some kind of punishment for that. Again, this is kind of dependent upon what society and community you're part of. If you're part of Hammurabi's community, well, it's an eye for an eye.
Oh, I so wish that were true, brother.
Well, again, that's the thing. I don't necessarily wish that were true because if it was, I may not be here right now. In the sense of, we don't, either we get to decide and we're God on earth or we're not God on earth. And sometimes we got to surrender in faith and say, there's losses that we take in this life and surrender it over, right? And whatever's going to be judged on is going to be judged on. And that's the whole point of a civilized, quote unquote, society. I guess that rides the line of colonized. It's like, if you come through my window, I'm going to give you the warning. Hey, you're coming through my window. I don't know what you're doing, and I'm threatened. I'm going to kill you now. It's the next step, right? And then you got to live with that body. So to avoid having to live with the guilt of having to cause loss, injury, or harm for someone else for being uncivilized, we try to surrender trespass as much as possible and give it over to God, and then there's times where you can't do that legitimately, and we have to determine on the fly that kind of situation, right? Are we being vengeful? Are we being retributive? Or are we doing exactly what's necessary to stop further loss, injury, or harm from being done to us? And you could argue, as crazy as they're going to tell me like to Castro, they're going to play the victim and tell me I'm an apologist. There's not one person who's done this with me who regrets doing it, regardless of how it turns out. If you're not a vengeful, retributive, victim-minded consciousness person, you love the game and you wouldn't trade sitting in a box for anything because it's part of what's making you. It's part of what's bringing you purpose and meaning and character through tests and challenges. Adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. If you're a bitch, you're going to sit around and go, they put me in a box for 33 days like my buddy, and then they dismissed it afterward. Okay, they gave you a golden ticket. He still hasn't sued him, still hasn't moved forward with it. And I got to get on his ass and give him what I got in order for it to happen, is what it's seeming like. The point is it's really only a coward who lives in fear and doesn't live in faith and honor who sits around worrying about what was done to them that was really done for them, because this is part of the walk, and that's part of living on a land that supposedly has some connection to a Christian ethos. You want to be like Jesus? Go sit in a box and get crucified. and through suffering comes enlightenment, as much as that's counter instinctual to what the body reports to us. That's what the teaching seems to reveal. It's because of our dishonor and bad faith that we're in the position we're in.
Yes.
Right. That's not like beating up on the victim either. I'm not going to play the victim, and I'm not going to beat up on someone who's being taken to a box. I will reveal to myself and others it is from a long line of systemic bad faith and dishonor and cowardice that we find ourselves in this place. Your mommy, your daddy, your brother, your uncle, and you. Now what? So you're going to cry about how they put you in a box, or you're going to cry about how you come from a long line of bitch ass motherfuckers who want to play the victim and don't stand for what's true and what's right and can't barely fucking talk. Like a slave at one point could talk. You bring a slave before a court, they might be able to orate a little bit. Most of these fucking slaves are so dumbed down and drugged out and don't use their fucking synapses. They don't read. They don't debate. They don't do anything to keep themselves sharp and be able to talk. And then when they go to court, they're mumbling, they're stumbling, they're bumbling. It looks like a whole race of completely disabled people. And that's not by happenstance and circumstance. That's by choices and lack thereof. So,
but isn't that partially due to the language being totally different when you walk into a courtroom?
No, I don't use any of their language. I use essentially the King's English, as they say, and then I throw my own little spin on it at times, but I really keep that out of court. It's like they say, most black people can speak 2 languages, how they talk to their grandma and how they talk to their boys in the street. So how we talk colloquially here and how I go off and whatever else isn't how I'm going to be when I'm dealing with a courting process. So we're there to maintain honor. We're there to maintain good faith. You should do that everywhere anyway. But especially with the linguistics
that you understand may be different in the courts.
It might be. The question is, why is the majority so comfortable with talking like a bunch of slugs at a fucking bar somewhere and not talking and acting like a fucking king? I don't get it. And you know what the reason is? Because the bitches you try to fucking entertain allow that shit and try to act like you instead of being your mama when they need to be. Say, why are you talking to me like that, you bozo? Why don't you get some fucking honor and good faith on you? Why don't you get some communication skills? But again, that's the difference between a real woman and a goofy bitch or a dumb hoe. And I'll say it to trigger all day, every day, because a real woman, she gets wet when you start talking that good shit in a way, like the kings used to do. It's archetypal. We're back to Romeo and Juliet. You think Juliet's going to get wet for Romeo if he talks like a clown on the street corner? No. So I'm not a romantic by any means, but I do understand, again, inherent hierarchical power and value systems and the archetypal. And for somebody who can talk and can write and make it flow and make you feel something, that's power and value all day. That's also an exemplification of someone who really cares and wants to do and be and have better. When I meet a motherfucker and they can't talk and write and spell, I know they don't give a fuck about themselves and their life and anything else, because one goes with the other. How you present, how you're perceived, how you're received, how you communicate, what's on the record. You don't give a fuck about that. What do you care about? I could never understand it growing up. I was always in my head in a dictionary. I was always with the words. I was always wanting to know more. I was always not wanting these adults to be able to talk over my head, and trick me out of position, being able to use words to communicate an idea. I didn't know what they were saying. That is a detriment to you. That is a lack of empowerment. And why so many people are so okay being disempowered and disintegrated in so many situations will baffle me till the end of time. Maybe they're better people than I am. They just don't care about value and power. They're so damn godly. Yeah, so much so they're a bunch of fucking pathetic, weak-ass slaves. Great. Your thoughts, Mr. Hefe?
Yeah, I mean, you're on.
I gotta address my audience quickly. I have some fans in the chat. So we found out, well, not we, I found out only X amount of months ago that I'm actually above average. So thank you for talking to my dick and having it in your mouth metaphorically and saying that I talk a big game, right? I'm not talking a big game. I'm talking archetypal common sense. All right, so you're already picking up on me as another man that I know how to fuck as well. See, that's what you're projecting right now. You're trying to do it from the inverse negative, downing me, but really what's coming across is I'm powerful, I'm inspiring, I'm attractive and magnetic on some level, and that makes you feel something. And I'm glad it does. So keep talking about my dick and keep talking about all the women who are not interested in my little Irish Willie, because I used to think the same thing. I used to run around here saying I had a small penis. And then I go, you know what? I'm going to actually measure this thing. I've never done that. If I did, I don't remember it. And I was actually quite surprised by the results. So it turns out when you're 6'3", 280, the rest of you may look kind of small, but objectively, you may be above average. So if you want to come over here and you want to double check it for me, I'll stick it in your mouth and you tell me how many inches it is, and then we can report it back to the audience. Go ahead, Mr. Hefe. I'm trying to help them out. You know, they want to talk on my dick and who's into me and who's not and all the rest of it. This shit's all on record and verified. I've never been a ladies' man. Okay. I've never been somebody who has even really been all the way in alignment with that. You know, like our ego or our like natural body likes the idea of affection and intimacy and interaction and sexuality. But like on a soul level, at my heart, I'm almost now having a different experience, right? Because the window has opened, becoming a new me and having new experiences and interactions and opportunities. I've almost been forced to realize more about the game of life and to mature on the fly, you know? So, as much as that's not true and doing this, at least a handful of women have come out in the open who are fairly attractive, who get simped on and tricked on in a lot of these venues, have expressed interest and attraction in me. So, but again, power and value comes down to how you wield it and what you do with it, because it can make you or break you, right? Not everything or everybody is for everybody all the time. So yeah, you really shouldn't draw from every well, is what I'm learning. For me, like that's for me. It's not even for them. It's for them too, but it's for me as well. So yeah, we're growing here. We're maturing. We're helping the little boys grow up some way, somehow, you know, and to understand we have a natural animalistic
all of us
body.
can talk like you, but you know, we're all learning to be we're learning to stand in our own power, right? Just because maybe I can't articulate it as smoothly or as the words don't come out as well, doesn't mean that I don't understand the power that we're standing on. And you know, I think one of the biggest detriments is people who are fence riders, you know, people who come over here and they kind of see what we're talking about, but they say, well, you know, it's easier just to go along with what they're saying, because then they're not going to put you in the box. They're not going to mess with you. You just pay them their money. You know, you just put the tags on and you won't get messed with too much, right?
Until it comes time to take 15 boosters.
Yeah, exactly.
Where does it begin and end? You know, like you got to look at you in the mirror every day. You got to know you're fucking with a bitch who, like that woman. We did the bit with Brian yesterday, the bit non-bit. She goes, how many boosters do you got to take to have sex with you? She goes, all of them. And even, you know, and it's just pathetic because these are women oftentimes who they're somewhat physically attractive, and then they open their mouth and reveal what the core of their spirit is, and they may as well be a 5-headed demon, you know, with gnashing teeth.
What did Led Zeppelin say in Dazed and Confused? The soul of a woman was created below, right?
Yeah, well, you know, again, these are a lot of folks like myself who at times have had issues with their mothers and issues with women, and they can't seem to make the jump of seeing the issues with self that also exist. You know, it's easy to sit around and get inspiration from what a woman did to you that she probably did for you on some level. We're back to government dynamics again. Instead of you recognizing who you are and how you got there with that person and where you're going from here, you want to make it about them. It's real cute when it comes to writing a song, but not when it comes to self-knowledge and awareness and growth and development. That's where responsibility and accountability and authenticity comes in. You know, usually a dirty bitch is fucking with a dirty motherfucker, but they don't want to see themselves that way. You know, I get to watch from a third party perspective and put the pieces back together. I get to watch with my father. I get to watch with everybody, you know, and I get to watch how they project onto their women who and what their women are and forget to do the same process with themselves. They project while they reject. And then someone like me has to come along and go, you're this, you do this. Well, it makes sense why she would be a replication of you, because this is doing what you are and what you do. And there's no difference between that. My father sat me down one day. I must have been 14, 16, whatever it was. The fact that I have to explain to a motherfucker who's 40 and 50 years old at 14 and 15 proves that age is not a barometer of intelligence or understanding or self-awareness. He goes, all these women I date, it's incredible how much they are interested in my money. And I go, well, what else do you believe about you, or what else do you lead with as your power and value? So if because my father's been on here, and in between him popping his shit, he likes to go to, well, I'm successful and I got money in the bank and all the rest of it. Bam, gotcha, bitch. If the first thing on your mind and subconscious is you got money in the bank and you work hard, what do you think the first thing on that bitch's mind that's reflecting you is? Gotcha. They don't want to accept that. You call in who and what is a reflection of you. Why do you think I keep calling women in who don't give a fuck if I got money or not? And when I do have money, ain't expecting me to spend it on them because they got their own, because they give a fuck about their own, because they want to be accountable and authentic about their own, because they want to co-create their own, because they want to be empowered and inspired, because they ain't looking for a man to do something for them. They're looking for a man to be part of something with them. Hello. The same thing I'm looking for. So we call in and attract who and what we are that reflects onto our partner. The same way you want to be a statute, policy, and code following bitch as a male and wonder why your bitch is following statute, policy, and code and taking vaccines. It don't surprise me. You know who's been fucking with women who ain't taking no vaccines and has 2 thumbs? I'm 4 for 4, like Wendy's. You know, the 4 women that I've been involved with that I've had long-term relationship, none of them got vaccines. Is it a coincidence? Every bitch that you fuck with gets a vaccine? No, it ain't a coincidence. It's a co-creation. What you put out is what you get back, or a motherfucker who's in need of what you put out. You know, and there's a third option there, but I have to sit with it to have it be revealed again. But you get my point. You know, there's very few coincidences in this life. There's very few random incidences in occurrence. You know, this is a perception deception, and it's based in rejection, projection, and reflection. And then that's when you get the level up. You go, oh, wow, all these women I call in have this thing going on with themselves. You start to see thematics. So then you got to go look back in the mirror and go, what is it about me that keeps calling in these people? See, that's the hard work. We don't want to do that. We want to make, all these bitches are gold diggers. All these bitches want is money and blah, blah. Is that all you got to offer? The same when they say, all these men want one thing, pussy. Is that all you got to offer? That may not be all I want unless that's all you have to offer. And guess what? With the majority of females, they don't cook. They don't clean. They don't home make. They're not good mothers. They're not successful at their career. What are you offering? What are you bringing to the table? And that's going to define who and what shows up to eat, right? To a degree. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to be a man who stops seeing all women as gold diggers because you keep attracting the ones that are, well, stop leading consciously or subconsciously with what you do for work and your money is where you get your greatest sense of self and empowerment and value, because that's like 3rd or 4th down the list for me, at least. It's still high on the list because most motherfuckers can't say they do what they want to do every day and do what they love to do and somehow get it all done. Right? So even though it's 3rd or 4th on the list, there's still some power and value in there because of the way I do it. It's really got nothing to do with this at the end of the day. It's most women and men are going to say, hey, if you get to do what you want to do every day, what you love to do and impact people and create value that way, and you don't got to go have a daddy boss, you're ahead of the game. That's the American dream. But still 3rd or 4th down my list. Right? Trust, equity, and faith, honorability, responsibility, authenticity, accountability, communications. Oh man, we're 6th, 7th, 8th down the list now. And I could keep going. So how many motherfuckers are screening themselves to, if not realize whether they're that now, become that in order to call in a woman who reflects that? And the answer is few, if any. They'll go, so I'm going to get a new job and make more money and be the man about town, then complain about how all women are gold diggers. You didn't work on yourself and your character. You didn't up your consciousness and awareness, right? You didn't go deeper into courage and faith and equity and trust. So what makes you think that you're going to call in a woman who's going to do that? They want to lie to their women. No, I'm not fucking nobody else. No, I don't got no eyes for nobody else. Or I do, but ha ha ha, it's a joke and I love you. Or I don't really love you and won't keep it all the way real. The difference between loving a motherfucker and having love for him and loving what they do for you or with you. A lot of these motherfuckers, they feel an attachment to somebody because that's the only person who's entertaining them and they don't want to be alone. Shit, alone is where you find yourself, if not create yourself. I don't really believe in that finding love shit or finding yourself. I believe in creating love by creating yourself. Come on, Hefe, let's refocus, man. I'm off on a whole other jag here. Proper instruction motivates people. What else
there's
is new?
There's a guy projecting in the chat.
There's always. That's why I'm not looking down there. You already know they're always going to be down there. It doesn't matter how many I ban. I got 300 on the list, and 300 more insecure bitch-ass motherfuckers are going to show up to project and reject truth and try to cope and hate and all the rest of it. You know, it's just it's a product of inherent hierarchical power and value system.
Yeah, they're trying to use this word incel to describe you or me or John. I don't know. But
okay, that's great. That's great, man. I'm fucking the world, and you want to tell me about incel? Give me a break, man.
Incel means involuntarily celibate, right? Isn't that what it means?
We got it, bro. We got it. We got it. Don't even give it time, energy, attention. I do more than that than I should.
I know. But what I'm saying is like,
there's 4 women down there right now who would fuck me if I put any kind of time, energy, attention, and interest in. I'm not interested, bro. Let's get back to the courting. I don't give a fuck about incel. That's the new word for all these creeps who are incels. That's him.
I know.
That's him. We know it. He's the incel, and he's projecting it onto us. It's not working. It's not working because it's not real.
No, I get that. I know, but I'm just saying the word wouldn't even be accurate if you were going to describe someone who has chosen not to pursue sexual relationships with the opposite sex. That's not involuntary. So, voluntary celibacy is closer to the truth, right?
If that's what you got going on, bro, I'm okay with it. It really doesn't much matter because, you had the bozo Teddy Ruxpin showed up here months back telling me he gets tons of girls on the ground and I'm a fool because I don't know how to fuck them. No, I just don't want to co-create with them beyond fucking them. And because that's all I want from them, I'm not willing to be accepting that for myself and them. As much as that's a test and a challenge for my dick, it's like my mind and my heart and my spirit knows better. So, every male struggles with that in their ego. And then at some point you move past it and you accept what is and the reality of the situation. That ain't your biggest problem, So it just doesn't make any sense.
No, I've had women throw themselves at me and I've declined it because I asked them if they were vaccinated and they said yes. So it's like, we're done. We're done talking. I don't even want to be in proximity to you.
Right. It's called having some self-respect and some value and power and standard for yourself to where you just don't entertain anybody because of a limited attraction or lust.
And how fucked up is that? That's the first question you have to ask. Because it's do or die right there.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point, was to shift the dynamic from how many women can you fuck to how can you stop fucking yourselves and invariably tolerating them getting fucked by the statism, the fascism, the policy and code, and all the demonic behavior that's going on. That's the whole point of this experience. All you playboys and players and guys who want to act like you're a man because you got a dozen goofy broken hoes who are willing to fuck you for whatever they think the payoff is going to be is no measure of actual power and value. Having or a few good women in your life who are actually down for the cause, who are willing to go through everything and anything with you and care for you when necessary. Let me see how many of you bozos got that moving for you, because it ain't happening. Real women don't show up for bozos like Teddy Ruxpin because he ain't riding on nothing. He ain't standing on nothing. He doesn't compel them to want to serve or co-create. This is archetypal shit, right? So, yeah, I'm not worried about it. Like I have the ego just like they do. I can let it get me insecure, but ultimately I know it's not true. So that helps in mitigating that insecurity, is realizing what's true and what's not, and also realizing what you got going for you. Like, I have at least one good woman who's been riding with me through everything, who she's competent and capable. She does what is necessary if I need it done, and vice versa. And we can count on that and trust that. And we're working on helping ourselves while helping each other, you know? So
Yeah, and that's a blessing, man. You know, I have one female friend that's like that too. I've known her since 2015. She's been the only female I've been around, you know, but we're not together. But that's it. It's like I know that I could rely on her for anything, and the same goes both ways. You know, I helped her build her house, and yeah, so it's like I like having people that are going to be there for me as a fellow human, you know, not just some, like you say, goofy bitch that wants to trick you out of your money or whatever you got. You know, I'd rather have real people involved in my life.
all right, so we got folks down there who I gave wrenches for a reason, because when we're in the algorithm, it's Tard Central. So this is your time to shine, right? Don't feel bad about it, because it's the same loops with these tards over and over again, and they got nothing to show. They're too fucking cowardly to even hit the link. It's in the description, boys. There's a good dozen of you down there. You got your Twitter fingers, secretary fingers going like a bunch of bitches. You got a link right down there to come on up and interact with me, but you ain't going to do it. So that's where then you don't get any more power and value that I give away to you by allowing you to be here. See? So help them out. Throw them the fuck out of here. We don't need them here. They're constantly with the jealous, envious, hate, and the bitch ass moves. I wouldn't even mind it so much if you came up here and showed yourself. What kind of loser, failure, coward sits in the chat typing shit toward me and then is too afraid to come on up here and interact with me? You would be my bitch in reality. That's the reality of it. If I even gave you that much time, energy, attention, because then I got to deal with the consequences of that. See, every move I make, I got to deal with accountability, consequences, responsibility, all the rest of that. You're free to do whatever you want to do, act like a clown and a fool, and not have to take any accountability and deal with responsibility. And then also have no position to lead. See, every time I act, people are watching, and they're going to make a determination on me and what I'm doing and not doing for me, and by proxy, everyone else. See, you don't know what that's like. That's why I'm your daddy here, right? I'm not free to just start whooping on a little child because mommy and auntie and the uncle and everybody's going to have to see it and witness it, right? They're going to say, Paulie boy, why are you going to that level with them? You know, the little boys just want your attention. They just need your love. All right. They need you to make a connection with them, to try to raise them up, because their own mommy and daddy didn't do that. We know why they're down there and why they're doing what they're doing. We've seen it hundreds and thousands of times. These are broken bitches and hoes who come from broken homes, who never seen a real man and never had a real woman in their life. And they just peruse the chats looking for toxic, dysfunctional interactions like they get at their home, or they don't get nothing at their home. So a toxic, dysfunctional interaction's all they get. That's better than being alone and having nobody and nothing and nowhere to be and nothing to do or be part of, right? Another dynamic I don't have anymore. See? So we're not so different, you and I, but we're miles apart, right? And I'm offering you guys the opportunity. You want to interact with me? You want to tell me I look like a monkey and I'm ugly and I got a discolored tooth, I should brush my teeth, and all the other shit that we hear day in and day. I've heard it all before. We've been dealing with it a long time now. It's not really effective. What would be effective is if you got your bitch ass up here and had an actual interaction face to face, and let's take it somewhere. See where it goes. Anything other than that bores me, right? You guys aren't cute and clever. You're not funny. You're not interesting. You're not entertaining. You're definitely not inspiring and empowered. So what's the point for me? Like, what do I get out of it? What does my core audience get out of it? What do you get out of it, quite frankly? That's the question. All right, so that's the remark at this point. That's the final say. I gave you guys wrenches for a reason, because I don't want to have to sit here and go over every jealous, envious, hating, projecting loser, failure who's got no balls and have to throw them the fuck out. But I will if I have to. Go ahead, Hefe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess, you know, I yeah, exactly what you're. And I really want everybody to stop being lukewarm on all these these things that actually matter. Because we went through lockdown and they're going to do it again. And we need to be ready as a people to stand on what's right and to be founded in it, not shaky. We got to know. Need people to know.
What's up with you? Because you're off grid. You got like a shitty connection or what? Because you're cutting in and out and lagging. I'm not so sure there's a way
probably.
All right. Give me the amended claim again, and then let's go from there. And then at some point, I'm going to shift to the docket. If not, Carl Lentz, we'll do an hour or so of that, just because there's no shortage of folks who need it, whether they know they need it or not, and you would be an example of that. So gives me an ability to kind of play the background, do a little less talking, kind of focus on my healing, which seems to be coming along little by little. And then, Carl Lentz can go over his experiences and his understanding, which correlates with mine because it's all one and the same.
Did you hear about that judge in Texas in that council meeting that declared, free speech will not be allowed in this room?
Where was that? Where was that at?
In Texas. Just a couple days ago at a council meeting, people were trying to speak, and a lawyer said the F word, and he had him removed. And then a woman came up and was studying the case law that says that's part of free speech. He had her removed, and he declared that it doesn't matter what the Constitution says, what our protocols for this room say matters here. That he said that to the public out loud. Now they can openly defy the law, right? I
love it. I love it. I think they should do more of it. I think they should pimp on these broken hoes and let them know where they really stand so they can choose something else or just get comfortable with their position they've chosen. I don't know why Wizard and Slackhot and the rest of you clowns go to city council. I don't know what the fuck you think you're going to get out of it. You look like a dumb bitch.
You get nothing.
Petitioning your fucking servants who've already said, we ain't serving no more. We're doing whatever we want and we're taking the money. It moves on you, bitch ass motherfuckers. You should have long ago stopped paying the tax. You should have changed the status and standing of your property. You should have corrected the record of your original status and standing, whether you want to talk state citizen, state national, U.S. citizen, American national, whatever the fuck verbiage you want to use or you believe in your heart. I don't care if it's none of that. Child of God, whatever the fuck you believe in your heart, change the record to reflect that status and standing and your natural rights and stop complying and cooperating. You don't have anyone to blame but yourselves and each other at this point. You ain't getting any sympathy from me because I'm being part of the actual solution. And sympathy's not going to get it done. Recognizing our cause and effect problem, right? Our cause of the problem and how we're part of the problem is what's going to create a solution. Ignoring that and continuing to petition and beg and ask for them to allow you to express yourself and your natural rights, that's been your problem, not the solution. Whoever that was back there, I saw you. I'm going to bring in. Relax. See if you can control your little fifis back there. If you're somebody who wants to interact, you got kind of fearful probably and ran out. Just sit back there and see if you can handle it.
But the point is we're just men and women. Everything else we do with that, we're just living within that fiction. So we're living in an unreal world. We're putting ourselves in an unreal world, taking away who we really are and making us believe we live within this fiction, that this is who we are. It's fucked up, dude.
You're giving me emotion. You're giving me emotion when it all stems from the same place. Everybody keeps complying. Everybody keeps cooperating. Everybody keeps citing their crap and buying into it. Everyone's too afraid to go through hell to get to heaven. They don't want to get locked up. They don't want to have to sit with themselves. They don't want to have to go to court. Well, then be a bitch. I don't know what to tell you. They're done. We're done. I'm done and they're done with you all asking them for you to be able to be a man. Either be it or shut the fuck up. Tired of hearing people bitching and crying and asking for shit. Be the fucking man you're meant to be, or shut the fuck up and be pimped on. And I'm going to laugh at it while it happens because there's nothing else to do about it. There's nothing else to do but accept the reality. I'm going to laugh at DeCastro and Brian and the rest of these bitch ass males. I don't give a fuck if it doesn't make me $1 or get me any more numbers. I'm tired of hearing them crying and complaining. I'm tired of hearing them asking for shit. I'm tired of watching them pop shit and act like they're the man. And when it's time to show up and scrap it out, they bitch the fuck up. You can't have it all ways. You act like a bitch and a hoe, you get treated like one. And I'm not going to have anything to feel about it because I know why it's happening and I know how to change it. And I've done my damnedest to be a part of changing it. And I got nothing but flack for it. I got nothing but judgments, nothing but projections and rejections, nothing but mischaracterizations. I'm the bully. I'm the meanie. No, you're going to see what a bully and a meanie and a pimp really is. I'm just a guy yapping online who has a limited power and value with the word of truth and what I do, more importantly, and don't do. That's where it all begins and ends. You want to tell me I'm the bully and the meanie because you want to make a victim out of yourself? You're going to see what a victim really is. You're going to see what the lowest of the low really is. You're going to see what pimping and hoeing really is, and you already have, and you still haven't gotten enough. You know? The same broken bitches want to keep going back to daddy to ask daddy to be a little nicer to him. And you know what he gives them every time? Twice as much of that. To remind you, this is pimping, baby. We ain't in love. Do what the fuck you're meant to do or shut up and take it and ask for another. What don't you get about that dynamic? The same way they're going to treat you back in prison if you have no self-care, respect for yourself and the truth, and you ain't willing to stand on something. What, you thought that we were cellmates? You thought we were in love? You're going to do what the fuck I say now because you don't want to stand for what's true and what's right. You're a mark. You're a victim. You're a duck. Act like a hoe and a bitch or a child and you're going to get treated like one. Go ahead.
It's a shame because Brian at High Impact or Low Impact, sorry. He is he's somebody
no
who
impact flicks. No impact flicks. That his broadcast makes no impact on the result of what goes on. If anything, it inflames all of it to get everybody in a victim state, to get everybody complaining, to get everybody freaking out, and with fanfare and hysteria does nothing to change the outcome. It actually arguably makes it all worse.
Yeah, he impacts his wallet with what he does. That's it.
Yeah. That's all they're really meant to do, right? Just like the inauthentic corporate male at the bar. They're there to make money and get some pussy. They don't give a fuck about what's true and what's right and having a lead. Someone else will do that.
Right. Yeah, he's sold. Okay. Yeah, I got a couple sentences. I'll just I'll pick up where I left off. I understand that I'm moving this court as I'm the only man here with an equity interest in this matter. I require any man or woman with firsthand knowledge of the facts to come forward and give sworn testimony. Any secondhand knowledge is hearsay. Secondhand knowledge is inadmissible and should be stricken from the record. Furthermore, I propose an order for compensation to be determined at trial for the unlawful kidnapping and imprisonment. Furthermore, compensation to be determined for the ongoing non-consensual administration.
I don't get into kidnapping and all the rest of this. I don't.
Okay, what do I say?
Like, we could act like we know what that means, and I may use that word colloquially, but I'm not a kid, and nobody napped me. Okay. I consensually allowed them to take me to a box to avoid having to go to war on the side of the road, and we're here to correct the record now. So you interfere with my property, which goes along with my rights. That's good enough.
Okay. Unlawful.
That's the worst offense someone could do is interfere with somebody's rights and property.
Okay, so unlawful interference.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. I keep it real simple, man. And just like Carl Lentz will say, such and such acting as agents of whatever service provision corporation interfere with my property / rights. That's all that went on. I'm moving around in the daily course of my activities. I'm not causing no loss, injury, and harm. I'm not a direct threat to the public. I'm not in breach of the social contract, even as it's written on their side. That there's a clause. Simba, God, whatever his name is, he keeps coming in and out. Try to figure out how to work your camera and mic before you come in here to get what you came for. You might want to be able to work your equipment first.
All right, so I'm not going to say kidnapping or imprisonment. I'm just going to say interference with my rights and property. I'm going to say, furthermore, compensation to be determined for the ongoing non-consensual administration of my property starting August 12th, 2024, and ending the day my property is fully restored. I require the immediate dismissal of all false charges and
I would
warrants
give
against my
if-then
good
statements.
name.
It could be interpreted as a threat. Do this or else.
So what do you mean if? Like
I wouldn't say anything that could potentially be misconstrued or purposely twisted into a do this or else. Whatever that last line was, I may have to listen to it again. Because if you start saying this or you do this or else, you're riding a line there. And you're going to have to get someone to enforce that. You need to stop talking like you got balls you don't have, like you got power you don't have, because you can't get anyone to enforce what the fuck you're saying.
All right. So
talk from where it really is. This is who and what I am. This is my rights as I understand them. This is what I wish or what I require. The rest is going to be decided by them. They already proved that to you. Oh, if you don't do this by this day, then you owe me X amount. Yeah, try telling Lucchese that.
No.
Hey, Mr. Lucchese, if you don't let me out of this box by the 18th, I'm going to charge you $1 million. He's going to fucking laugh at you. He's going to say, good luck collecting, because I have all the collectors in town. All the debt collectors in town run with me. You get where I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, I do. It wasn't ending at a certain time, or I was saying that the compensation begins the day that they stole my property. Compensation to be determined for the non-consensual administration of my property beginning August 12th.
Look at these fucking losers and cowards in here. Trump is the big daddy. Man, the majority of you folks who come here are the biggest bitches and dupes. It's incredible. I'll never stop like being entertained by that. How cowardly and weak and stupid you are. And just say shit. It's like, it's one thing to be this cowardly, weak, and stupid, but to go around everywhere proclaiming it and finding false pride in it is just fascinating to me. Okay, so
I have to say, I wish for compensation. I pray for compensation because they got the power.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is why it can present it.
Like you just put you have the right to remain whole. I mean, to be given back what you lost. That's how I would put it. I mean, I have the right.
You know, who has higher claim and right of my property?
I have the right to be made whole by what was taken from me unlawfully. I mean, what else do you need to say?
The right to remain whole.
Yeah, I mean, we're extending this out and repeating it. It's like, let's just keep it short and sweet and concise and to the point without continuing to repeat in various different ways what you want that may or may not happen.
So just one sentence.
Like ultimately, I would think at this point, you're wanting to be recognized as a man with a proper claim that somebody interfered with your property, which encompasses the idea of rights. You know, what's proper to you, what extends off of you and your beingness. So, I mean, and again, this goes back to the court of original supposed jurisdiction where, as you know, I would prefer that there would be a correspondence on record to make them aware that a wrong was done and for you to try to prosecute that alongside of them attempting to prosecute you while essentially disqualifying the proper process and procedure, because on either side, in either jurisdiction, you have a right to face your accuser. The plaintiff or the complainant must appear. That's from what I understand the rules of court, legal or lawful. So if we ain't got that, we ain't got nothing. And that's what I stick on. The last half a dozen, however many that I've gotten remedy or resolution with or been wiped from the record, it's because I don't argue the code. I don't argue whether I did it or not. I'm most likely guilty of that and some. When it comes to legalities, I didn't do anything unlawful, and you got no man or woman on the other side to make a claim I did anything. Third party impartial witness or claimant / complainant. Furthermore, there isn't even anybody who shows up to be faced as a plaintiff or an accuser. You know, so I'd
Right.
prefer if we could get an adequate remedy and resolution in the form of a discharge, or I guess at worst a dismissal, which is typically what they do. They don't discharge, they dismiss, and then go from there on compensation. Because I got a feeling they're going to say, well, you got an ongoing case over there, and while we can claim to be federal court and be higher court, ultimately you need to go back to have a resolution at the original location. You know? So yeah, it's just it's like at any time you can always state, hey, I once had a belief and now this is my current understanding, and no one can force me to believe anything different, and doing loss, injury, and harm to me doesn't change my belief. But it's like ultimately when you know, we're starting behind the 8 ball here, because you have contracts with them. You have, I'm sure, open licenses somewhere, whether you were running under that or not. You got identification cards. You know, you haven't given notice from the top down to rescind all that. You haven't rebutted certain presumptions. You use their forms. You know, you did certain things that it's easier to get in than it is to get out. You know, and to give them nothing to move on. Right. And not only not give them anything to move on, to remind them that they have less than nothing because they haven't met the proper process and procedure for a court, legal or lawful. You know?
Right. Yeah. There's no man on the other side, first and foremost.
Right. And then we're riding the line of, well, I'm going to come sometimes and I'm not going to come other times, and then play the game of them putting the warrant out and then seeing if they're really going to execute the warrant. And I get it, because that's what I did my first few times. And this last time I said, you know what, I'm just going to take this through. I'm going to show up at their court, but I'm never going to be technically in their court, because I'm never going to give them any traction, momentum, jurisdiction. And I'm going to make it clear on the record that I know the rules of court without arguing with them verbally. So everything comes back to, did you get my claim? Did you get my notice? Did you get my correspondence? Yes. Okay. Well, you understand it, right? Is there anything you don't understand? Okay. So we got nothing to talk about. I require dismissal because you have not met the proper process and procedure to move this court forward. Who's going to move it? Every last 3 times I went to court, the prosecutor turned the camera off and ran, because they're not ready to interact with me at all. They've tried to interact with me in the past. I've been nothing but honorable and good faith, but I remind them of what their duty and obligations are versus what it's not. And that scares the lights out of the inauthentic corporate males, that I know their obligations and that I can be accountable for them while they're seeking to limit their liabilities, responsibilities, and not be accountable or authentic. That's how a woman gets an inauthentic corporate male to want to divorce and just take half his shit, is when day in and day out you say, no, you're going to be authentic, you're going to be accountable. No, I know what your duties and obligations are. No, I know what you signed up to do and what you got to be, right? See, that's the fake pimp breaker. When you got a hoe who knows the rules and the obligations and the duties, that breaks the fake pimp like that. You remind them of what they're supposed to be doing instead of letting them pull the wool over your eyes. You know, so you got to kind of get yourself into a position in this game, it would seem to me, over time, where they respect you and they know that you know, and they don't want to play with you. And the only way they're going to move a court forward is if you cause loss, injury, and harm, or you're in dishonor and bad faith. Like, if they believe that I believed in the code and that it was for me and that I broke it anyway, they would fry me with it. They know that I know that it doesn't apply to me. They know that I'm going to keep showing up and saying it doesn't apply to me, and it doesn't have to apply to me, because I know how to govern myself. Public safety codes and clauses in the Constitution are for folks who don't know their rights and can't govern themselves. That's the difference between natural rights and civil rights. Black released slave doesn't know his natural rights, doesn't have any ethos, doesn't know how to protect his rights or how to use a court system. So we got to bring in a bunch of small hat folks to protect these black folks because their natural rights are being violated. Let's create civil rights to further protect their natural rights. See? I don't want any of those benefits and privileges. I don't need them. I know my natural rights. I know common sense. I know I didn't sign nothing. I know I didn't make agreements. And I know that I'm not in your court. I'm at the court and I'm presenting my claim and putting my correspondence on record. You guys don't have anything. I'm guilty of 15 illegal things. Now what? You don't have anybody on the other side. the prosecutor's not going to swear in to give adequate testimony. And I'm not even going to argue none of that. Hey, just find me guilty on your side and find me innocent on the other side, because there is dual jurisdiction. I got that on record at court. I'll say it 1,000 fucking times. I got it on record at Colorado State Court. I asked him, how many jurisdictions does court preside over? He said 2. That's all I need to hear. I could be guilty as all get out 15 ways to Sunday on the left side and be not doing anything wrong on the other side. And if you ain't got the claimant or the plaintiff to show up, and that prosecutor's not going to move that court in that case because he already knows I'm going to ask him to swear in, or I'm not even going to give him time, energy, attention, and life. It depends on how it goes. It really does. You can't have a one-size-fits-all answer like Carl was saying the other day. You can't pull the rabbit out of the hat when it comes time to saw the lady in half. Everything kind of has its momentum and progression and kind of state of beingness that you got to read the room and know what to do. And you only get that by learning on the fly and trial by fire. You know, so the best modality is don't even give them time, energy, attention, and life. Just put your correspondence on record, shut up, and let it ride, because they got to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. You know, and if it seems like they're going to railroad you and they're going to stick you with those obligations, well, then you got to start scrapping a little bit. And then you got to start pointing out their rules and their obligations. And then you got to ask them, you know, and you got to kind of imply, it would seem to me that this is XYZ, but I don't know. I mean, you guys are the experts, right? You're riding the line between challenging them with their proper process and procedure, but not challenging their false, illegitimate authority, right? And it's a hard line to walk. You know, that's why I prefer to just keep it as brief as possible, interact with them as least as possible. They already got my correspondence on record. It's signed. I've already given them some securitized document that they can stamp and waive these charges and still get paid for their supposed service to the public. You know, I mean, that's all we're really talking about here. This is banking. They want to get paid. Everybody wants to get paid in the room. And they also want to make sure that all the slaves don't think they could just do whatever they want to do. For the few men and women who understand the law of this land and the foundations of proper process and procedure, they know they're always going to get their way. That's why every county on this land has a 96 to 98% conviction rating. The other 3 to 5%, interestingly, it correlates with IQ and a whole bunch of other things. Then people are never going to be convicted because they're already convicted in their heart. They already have the understanding. They're not wavering, you know? And for these folks who understand history, as much as they don't like that 4 to 6% who's always going to get their way at court, they know it's necessary, because without them, we go into complete slavery and genocide. You don't think that's in the back of everybody's mind in the subconscious? That's why they gave Julian the answer at court the other day when he went. They not only didn't fry him, they commuted the sentence. They taught him a lesson without making it too harsh, keep him loving the game, keep him doing what he's doing, and gave him the answer on how to check the administrator next time at court. Are you kidding? It's not what folks think it is with the majority. I'm not saying there aren't some tyrants, there aren't some bastards where they're only in this for physical power and domination and to play games. Even the ones who are in it for that, they'll say the same thing about me. And I go, okay, let's say I am that. Beyond that, you don't think there's a percentage of me that wants to see you fucking buck up and win? I'm bored around this motherfucker. I want some competition. I want some action. Let's see it. What do you got? I want to see a player for once. Tired of seeing so many fucking weak ass slaves who can't talk. So I could be the most power hungry, controlling, domineering, competitive bastard in the world. This shit gets boring to me if you don't rise to the occasion. Call that ego and narcissism if you want. It is what it is. It's inherent hierarchical power and value systems. There ain't a fighter out there in the world, as much as they may like winning and controlling and dominating, who don't get bored when they don't have adequate competition, right? So if you're throwing them on some level, you want to receive them. That's part of the game. What's the point of signing up to play a game where you always win?
Talking about the
Right,
NFL now?
there's no fun in that.
Whatever it is. I don't care if it's going to war. Camp your army next to a weak army. Your army will become weak. Camp your army next to a strong army. You'll have the best army in town. The best football team is number one because they had to play the second best. There's no point in any kind of game or any kind of process if there is no competition. It just gets boring, and then it doesn't serve an actual function, even if it's on the lowest level of functionality. So just on a human level, these administrators, they may not like it, but they respect it. And they're waiting for you motherfuckers to come in there and dazzle them with something they already know and have heard before, but it's something different than the rest of this crap. And no, it ain't saying I'm a living man and this, that, and the third and trying to yellow fringe around the flag and all that. That's how they're going to tell you you're a sovtard.
Right.
You know, you come in there and you start letting them know, I'm a man, I have rights under God. I know my rights. I don't have contract with anyone. No offense. But I'm not going to comply and cooperate with this if it's a detriment to me and my rights and my property. Simple, done, and over. Now, what do you got? You know what they're going to say 9 out of 10 times? This motherfucker's got heart. He's got balls. We respect it. Even if we don't like it, we're going to give you the lightest. If they're going to make you guilty, they're going to give you the lightest of the bunch. You saw DeCastro go in there with a lawyer and get raped because he gave him jurisdiction and they don't respect him. That's why he got raped and did that time. You could argue with me it was about the technicalities and the code and law. No, it wasn't. And you can argue it's not fair. Oh, well. I'm telling you, she didn't like him. And I didn't like him either. I'm telling you, she thought he was a dishonorable, bad faith, corporate male bitch. And she was going to prove a point. And she did. And I bet you anything, whether she's married to a cop or not, if Paulie Boy was at that court that day, instead of saying fuck the pigs and all cops are bastards and playing power games and then shutting up and acting like a bitch and then begging. Oh yeah. He got her to a point she had a pimp and didn't even want to do it. You know? Oh, you want to do this and do that. And then she even asked him one question. Didn't you say this? Yeah. Didn't you say that? She asked him 2 questions. Once he admitted that he said that, he had an opportunity. He could have recanted right then. He could have said, you know what, Miss Zimmerman, that was out of line for me at this venue to be dishonorable and bad faith. I'm here to do something bigger and better than what these folks on the side of the road did. I'm here to stand for something. I'm here to stand for honor and good faith and just put the facts of the matter on record, bear witness and testimony. You think that she'd have went forward with pimping on in the way she did? She didn't even want to do it. She had to do it. This is a spiritual dynamic. You show up in there like a little boy and they're going to put you over their knee. You show up in there like a man and you do what's true and what's right and you keep it simple. They're going to respect you. And even if they hit you up, they're going to give you the least of it because they respect you. When you throw all your respect and honor and good faith out the window and double down on it, oh yeah. When they get you on that code and that jurisdiction, they're going to teach you because you need it. They're going to treat you how you need to be treated, not how you want to be treated. You know? Especially a motherfucker who was on the side of the road popping shit in the cop's face. Oh, I'm an alpha male. I'm this, that, and the third. Oh, please. On some level, that spirit can't wait to see what you're about then. You know, that's the dark side of the force. Oh, yeah. You're the upstart, huh? You're the alpha male. You're the guy who's going to change the game, right? Oh, you got to live everything you speak now. Come on. What do you got? Fuck the cops. What? Oh, yeah. Watch this. Contempt. Oh, crying now? Begging? Oh, man. You know, that's the thing. On some level, even if a woman wants to prove that you're wrong, she still wants to see you're a man by the end of it. You gave all of it up. Not only were you wrong, dishonorable, and bad faith, you acted like a bitch. And she's supposed to respect that. She's supposed to uphold your rights. She's supposed to what? Protect you from yourself. Got to mama you at that point. Bet you he learned. I know he learned. Because since he's come out, he's been a good little boy. He's been doing exactly what he should have been doing the whole time. Selling his trifolds, lying and grifting, staying in his lane, in his position, staying off the side of the road, and staying the fuck out of court. Because you ain't that legal lawful scholar, boy. You're just a Billy Mays. And Billy Mays at least sold OxyClean. That shit used to get stains out of whites and colors. You know? You just want to be a telemarketer. You want to be a grifter and a liar and a cheater and an inauthentic corporate male. Well, stay your bitch ass on YouTube and stay the fuck off the side of the road with cops and stay the fuck out of court. He learned his fucking lesson. That's what he should have been doing the whole time. So you get what you need in this life. Julian didn't get that. Go ahead.
What he didn't learn was that you shouldn't be swaying people who have actual real power, sway them from acting out of that power, you know, telling people that they need to have driver's license, they need to be insured and registered.
No, he's telling them to do what he learned how to do now, which is to be a bitch and a hoe, like he should have been doing the whole time. You're telling people who don't know they have the power to not try to dabble and try to play games. That's good advice. if you really aren't in this for everything and you're not willing to go through all of it and whatever's formed for you, don't even try, because you're going to waste everybody's time and you're going to embarrass everybody. So I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not saying them people he's talking to, everyone in the audience doesn't have potential. I'm saying most of them are never going to see it and they're never going to walk with it. That's the reality of what life shows. And there's nothing I or others are going to hop up and down and shout and say or do that's going to change that, unfortunately. Right? So, you know,
Okay,
just like I
you.
come on here and I tell folks, hey, just because you watch me do certain things and listen to me, don't mean I'm not afraid and don't mean I'm not willing to go through everything. It's because I am willing to go through everything that I get some level of results I do. If you ain't that, then don't do it. I don't tell anybody to do what I'm not willing to do in a way that I'm not willing to do it, because that's setting people up for failure. So he should go on there and tell all his audience who reflects him, just like his women and everyone else he's with who reflects him, to be good little boys, to vote for Donnie, to pay the slave tax, to follow the code, to lock it down again, to wear a mask, take 5 more vaccines, not have more than 10 round magazines, and all the rest of it. Just be a good little bitch boy, kept pet slave. That's what you've always been, and that's what you continue to be, because you ain't formed to do what the rest of us are here doing. Because as soon as you get the test and challenge, you're going to bitch up and cry or act like a child and embarrass yourself and everybody else. We don't need more of that. Stay in your fucking lane, stay in your position. The same way you wouldn't tell somebody to put a blood or a Crip flag on and go walk around town and maybe get shot at. You ain't formed for this. You ain't ready. You'll know when you're ready. I'll know when you're ready. Until then, just stay in your fucking lane and do what you know how to do. Be a good bitch. Be a good hoe. Stay out of the way. Pay your fucking tax when they come for you, right? Run your pockets. Pay them the tax. And hope that they take mercy on you, I guess. I don't know how else to say it. That's just pure, straightforward, lowest level street logic. You know, the reason that I was around Bloods and Crips at one point and never put on a flag is because I didn't want the consequences that came with it. I used to tell them that. They wanted me in more after that because they respected me. They go, you know how many people want to put on this flag and act like something to get bitches and try to get money and aren't prepared for what it is? They're not humble enough. The real OGs, so to speak, they'll tell you, you got to be a certain level of activated and you got to be a certain level of humble, because what comes with this? You're talking life in prison. You're talking RICO charges. You're talking in and out of court all the time. You're talking about potentially having to kill or die for this shit. So when they come to a young guy and they say, you got a mind, you got a heart, you got potential, you're willing to stand for certain things, you want to be part of this, and you tell them, no, I'd rather just do business with you and work together on a certain level of values and principles, or just getting money or dealing in drugs, whatever it is. I don't want everything that comes behind that. You know, that's OG perspective. Right? Because you got a lot of folks who join that shit who they've been in 20 years and they go, on some level, if I could, I would drop the flag because I don't need to Blood and Crip anymore. I'm getting money. I got women. I'm good in my life. I got a family. I can stand on business and I don't need a crowd of people behind me. And half these people behind me are a liability at times. They could get me caught up on RICO and all the rest of it. But, you know, once you get into, it's easier to get in than it is to get out. You know, the same things to be said for legal and lawful and courting, right? So you only put this shit on and you start to do this when you really accept what's going to come with this all the way, you know, and definitely not just all the good shit, right? It's, you have to accept all the bad shit that could come behind this. And if you're not willing to open yourself up to that and potentially prepare for that and then accept that and surrender that, then you don't start to begin with.
Yeah, you know, I didn't do anything when I was first started to learn this stuff. It took like 5 years at least before I was even making any moves. And that's why I didn't correct the record till last July, basically.
I sat with this shit for decades, bro, on some level. Then I really started going hard on it. You know? Once I realized that love affairs and family and money and jobs and all the rest of it wasn't actually going to fulfill me here, I had to go all the way. You know? So yeah, man, I sat on this shit to some degree, right? I really tightened up over the last 8 years. You know, I started doing 6 to 8 hours a day at one point of listening to certain things, reading, going to etymologies. But yeah, man, I mean, at the end of the day, too, the other side of it is nothing can be exchanged for experience. You got to know what you need to know on some level. The rest of it's going to be experience. You know, I'll take it back to the same analogy. It's like telling a kid, oh, I know everything about blood and encrypting. You know everything about the actual experience. You can know all the stats and statistics and the rules and the codes and all. Did you live it? Did you put in the time? You got the 1,000 hours in? Have you had all the experiences that come with that? Well, then, you know. So again, each individual has to know where they're at, you know. And again, one of the biggest things in life in general, it's not just legal and lawful, is learning trust, equity, and faith in yourself and in the universal process, as scary as that is to the rational mind. So that's what legal and lawful will teach you. That's what blood and encrypting will teach you. Shit, anything that's testing and challenging that has a dark side of the force attached to it is going to teach you how to at times not know and not have to know. And just have trust, equity, and faith, do the next right thing and surrender the rest. You're going to be where you're meant to be. So yeah, man, I'm sure again, there's a fine line there between knowing what you need to know and then just being a fucking coward and not wanting to go to the next level because you really don't want to have the experience to get solidified and certified. So at that point, it's like the guy who he's learned how to jump, he's got the parachute on his back, but he needs somebody to give him a little push out that door. You got to be your own person behind you, giving yourself a little push out that door. That's what I found. You know, I wasn't ready when I started doing no plates, no license, and all the rest of it. I went and got a $2,000 car, and I said, I'm going to start moving around without none of this, and I don't know where it's going to go. I know that I got a right under God to move my property around. I know no other man in a costume who's supposed to be my servant can tell me what I can and can't do. I know a bunch of supposed politicos and congressmen in suits somewhere aren't above me because I'm of and by and for the people. And it doesn't even matter what paperwork they produce. There's no way they can substantiate anything but that. They're no better than me. They don't have any more power and authority than me. It could be argued they have less than me. They're there to perform a certain function. When they step out of line with that, their power and their value is nullified. My power and my value under God and upholding the law can never be nullified unless I break that law, which I don't. So you got to really believe that in your heart. You may even have to fake it till you make it because you may not really believe that, but you may know on some level that's true or truer than whatever else they're telling you. And then you start living from that so much, it just becomes part of you. You know?
Yeah, that's why I dropped the hammer on it, because I understood that it was true, and maybe I was ready, maybe I wasn't, but my heart told me, you know, hey, you got to do what's right. You got to do what gives you purpose and meaning. So I did it, you know, maybe I wasn't ready, but it doesn't
You're
matter.
never ready. It's the same thing as saying having a child. Are you ever really
every
ready?
day I'm getting closer.
Yeah. Is anyone ever really ready to have a child with everything that comes with that? No. Does that mean you never have a child? No, because you're never going to be completely ready. You do whatever it is your heart calls you to do. Oftentimes you're doing what your heart's calling you to do. You're not even aware it's calling you to do. You know how many accidental supposed pregnancies there have been? Probably the majority of them. You really think they're as accidental as we believe they are? You know, there's a higher order here. There's a higher attractor here. You know, or lower, you could say. There's something operating outside of our conscious mind, even if it's just the subconscious mind. And then we have to ask, well, what is that? And what's the collective conscious and unconscious mind? What is it connected to? What are the implications of that? You know, and then we get into religious language, you know, whether you want to go clinical or religious, there's a force or a spirit or a state of consciousness that's acting upon us separate from whatever we're conscious of in each moment. You know, enter in angels and demons, right? And you can argue on a clinical level, that's just your programming. You've been programming from the beginning of your time here to think certain things about yourself and life, and that's what you're going to generate until you reprogram that. You know, and again, it's hard to distinguish. Is this just a purely local programming dynamic where when you reprogram your subconscious mind, who and what you are changes on a macro level? Or is it that you unite with something which helps to change you on a macro level? I think it's potentially a little bit of both. It's sort of a non-local, spiritual, collectivized experience. It's also a local process of like self-talk and accepting certain things and not accepting other things, moving into certain things, moving away from other things. That's a choice. But yeah, it seems that there's a direct connection there between what we accept for ourselves and what we do and what the universe brings us for an experience. John, you're kind of an example of that. You haven't been bothered yet, huh?
I have not. No, it's almost 2 years now.
The universe has somehow decided John doesn't need the test and challenge yet. You know? Or maybe it wants to get you to the point where you want the test and challenge because you haven't gotten it. You're like, what's going on here? It's been 5 years. They haven't stopped me yet. They won't arrest me. And then bam, it's going to give you what you need.
Well, I'm not worried about anything. The only thing I'm worried about is them taking my automobile. Because that would be a hefty loss.
Right. Well, is it something you can't replace?
Well, yeah, not easily. But, I wrote to the DMV and told them I was ending my contract with them. So I don't know if that means anything to them or not.
It doesn't necessarily have to mean anything to them for it to mean something in law, right? They didn't rebut the presumption. They didn't answer to you. They're in default. If they have a duty and obligation as public servants to make sure we follow the code, well, then they should be responding to you to give you notice of why your failure to follow that code will lead to a detriment for you and others. If they're not doing that, it's because I believe they don't really believe that. They know they don't have the actual status and standing to tell men and women what to do with their property. Most people believe they do. They know they don't have it. The delegation of authority doesn't exist. The only thing that keeps this all moving the way it is a belief.
Exactly.
And the process and procedure that's followed. I and others have proven that.
The DMV, they actually, in their own, well, at least in Arizona, they have a manual for the license, for the driver's license. And I read over it and I sent in an affidavit telling them the contract is null and void. They got
well,
back
somebody
to me
sent
and
me
said, well,
the.
you got to fill out our paper.
Go ahead.
And I sent them an affidavit telling them it's all over. Delete me from your system. And they said, well, sorry, we can't do that because you have to fill out our paperwork in order for that to happen. And then actually, I looked up their own rules. And even in the manual for the driver's license on page 11, it says that you can either cancel it by filling out their form or by notarized affidavit. So
right, but they want you in commercial code jurisdiction constantly, and they're going to keep telling you, just like all the demons who come here and say, Paulie, you don't know what you're talking about. Your half a dozen court appearances don't exist. It's not real. Code's the only thing that's real. It's a hypnotizing demonic gaslighting campaign. Of course, their code outlines the dual jurisdiction, just like the guy sent me something yesterday. What did it specifically say? It was in their manual. It said that any display of a tag is purely voluntary and not compulsory. Hello, we know that. Now, does everyone believe that? The majority? No, they believe you got to have a tag issued by the corporate U.S. or its subsidiary corporations in order to move your property around. And that's all that they need to know or not know for this thing to work. But when you go to their documents, right, but they can charge you whatever they want. It doesn't mean they can substantiate that you got to pay. Why do you think 90% of charges go away when you go to court? That's why they stack them 5 and 10 high, because 60 to 70% of them are never going to be substantiated. And they're going to try to get you to cop to the rest.
And just like Julian, there's no primary charge. You know, the initial reason for the stop was speeding. That's not on the charging instrument. So
oops.
It's just more bullshit.
It's not on the charging instrument because they know, like I know, like everyone knows, if you understand this, in dual jurisdiction, they have no original claim because you're not operating under the license. So they can't charge you with speeding because you never agreed to follow traffic code, which is what signing the license paperwork is. You're agreeing to follow all those traffic codes. I know that they canceled my shit because I went to go get a copy to go to the dispensary, and the woman goes, I go, what? I love when I hear on the other side of that. I know I'm going to get something then. I go, I'm so on the ball with this God thing. Whatever that is, it could be my insanity, that I have moments throughout the day where I go, oh, it's about to show me something. I can feel it as it's happening. She goes, I go, what? She goes, well, it seems that your identification's been rescinded or canceled. And I go, how does that happen? I go, you sure you don't mean expired? She goes, no. It's been, she goes, her words were, something you did got it canceled. Well, then I got my answer right there, because I sent them notice at some point with a witness that all my contracts with them are to be rescinded. I once had a belief, I no longer have, and I will not be following your statutes, policies, and codes, but I also won't be in breach of the public safety clause, in the sense of I will not present a direct threat. And I even conceded with them that, because just I believe in good sense and rationality, that I will follow their limits of speed, because I don't have a need predominantly, right? Like predominantly, unless I'm in an emergency, I give a caveat to pretty much everything. Unless there's an emergency that's unforeseen where I got to do 150 to get somewhere, I'm going to follow your traffic codes, because it just makes sense to. I don't need to go faster. Right. Yeah. I'm not a crazy person. I may be uncivilized or uncolonized, but I'm not unreasonable, as they like to say. So 65 is good enough for me. 25 on the back road's good enough for me. That's a rating that they advise you to keep everyone safe. Hey, I'm cool with that. Whatever. Just know that I don't have to follow that.
Yeah, but an 18-wheeler has to do that same speed. I mean, look at the difference in the stopping distance.
The 18-wheeler is under commertal code, and they have an agreement.
The point is, why should it apply to the traveler driving a Mini Cooper or something that could stop, 1,000 feet shorter than the 18-wheeler can?
Of course, it's a generalized advisement.
Commercial vehicles is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a generalized advisement to keep the public safe, but absent of a direct threat, nobody's in breach of anything. No one's in breach of the peace. No one's caused a direct threat. You're not legislating or litigating anything at that point. You're trying to do pre-crime. You're trying to say, if I don't take my property at exactly 65 from point A to point B, something bad's going to happen. That's not true. If that was true, the Autobahn would be a top place for accidents, and it's not. There's very few, if any, accidents on the Autobahn while everyone's doing 150. So speed is not necessarily correlative to amount of accidents happening. What is a populace of unaccountable, incompetent, unreconciled, delusional, in denial, on the phone, pimped out slaves who can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And we got plenty of that, licenses or not. Trust me, I'm on the roads all the time. I see how many slaves got license, registration, insurance, and plates, who talk on the phone, almost run into you, don't signal, speed, and all the rest of it. And the reality of life is, you're never going to stop them. You're never going to keep them from doing that. What will keep them from doing that is throwing out all the policies and codes and encouraging people to use common fucking sense and have some kind of care. All day, every day on India, people don't run into each other because they don't have any codes, but everyone gets to where they're going because they use some kind of fucking care and common sense.
I can't remember where
they're observationally aware,
I can't remember where it was, if it was in Britain or somewhere, but on the roundabouts, they took out all the signals and stop signs and left it up to the people traveling to travel safely around those roundabouts. And the accidents actually went down when they removed the traffic enforcement signals and stuff like that, because people had to pay attention to what they were doing and travel safely. Otherwise you're just not thinking, you're just waiting for the light to tell you what to do. So
yeah, it's just like when the red light is blinking, instead of changing from green to yellow to red, when it's blinking, everybody treats it like a four-way stop, and then they're all very conscious and aware of the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this guy's not understanding how contract law works. You're talking about having private property or just property registered in someone's name. There's a thing called a bill of sale. So what's gone on for hundreds of years, thousands of years. It's like saying at one point, I can't sell my sword to somebody because they may go cut someone's head off and say, oh, the sword's in his name, you're liable. Ridiculous. So it's very simple, right? I don't care if it's mental or physical. We working together in trust. I'm providing you this piece of property in belief that you're going to use it in good faith and honorability. And I have no reason to believe you're going to do anything different. Why do you think when you go buy a gun, there's a clause where they ask you a question? Do you believe that you're giving it to a prohibited person? Because if you don't believe that the person you're giving it to is prohibited, they're going to cause loss, injury, or harm, or have a propensity to do such, they can't hold you liable. All day, every day, a woman goes and buys a gun and get it for their husband for a gift and hand it to him. And their code even specifies spouse, extended family, and a list of other positions and statuses. Well, if it's true for them, it's true for everyone. You can't decide where the line begins and ends on community and friends and family and working together in trust and providing each other tools to protect yourselves or each other. So this is, again, just you're so in fear of being free that you can't understand how with freedom comes responsibility and accountability. It's three things you all are deathly afraid of. True freedom, to then have to develop accountability, responsibility, and manage your fucking affairs and the records. So I'll sell a gun. I'll give a gun to anybody at any time who I'm in co-creation with, who I believe is lawful. They're not going to cause loss, injury, and harm. And there's no servant out there who's going to tell me I don't have a right to hand somebody a gun to protect themselves or our property and our livelihood because you have a code somewhere, somehow. Absolutely ridiculous. And if they go take a gun and they go kill someone with it, I'll show up at any court on the land and say, what did he do with that property? I gave it to him in trust, equity, and faith. He went and did what with it? Oh, I'll be the first one to testify that he caused loss, injury, and harm and did something dishonorable or bad faith. Yeah, that's upholding the law. One has nothing to do with the other. If I give you a lawnmower and you take it apart, cut someone's head open with the blade, am I liable? Like Sling Blade, am I liable for that? Of course not, because I didn't give you with that intention, and I had no reason to believe you were going to cause loss, injury, and harm. And if you went off your rocker and did that, I'm not only not liable, I'll show up at any court on this land and say, here's what the fuck happened. Now, if you shoot somebody in self-defense and it's righteous, I'll show up to testify on any court on the land you did that. It's about the truth. It's about faith. It's about honor. It's about trust. It's about equity. It's about what's reasonable and sensible and common sense. Your thoughts, Thomas?
Can you hear?
Yeah.
So I guess
here we go. You're signing the title over. I have to help the slave out. I'm sorry, because he doesn't understand the words he's using. I'm dealing with people using words who don't understand what they mean, which is the definition of retardation. So, if you are signing the title over, it's no longer in your name. But from what I was understanding, it sounds like Sobsit Way is no paperwork at all because it's my property. Again, you want to project the term Sobsit without any understanding of what you're talking about. It doesn't matter whether we can explain how it's not that all day, every day, based on the actual words and terms. And you also have this fixation with your name. How is anything in your name? What does that mean? You signed a title to title the property a motor vehicle to put it in their commercial jurisdiction. That's what a title is. If the woman I'm with leaves my arm to go over and fuck with you, and you sign a title that says she's a dumb hoe, that's what you're choosing to title what you believe is your property. Has nothing to do with who's in whose name and where you're liable and all the rest of it. I don't know what you're talking about. What I think you mean is registration, which you still wouldn't mean that, because I think what you would then mean is recording. You have a record where you've recorded your affairs and who's who and what's what in order to establish liability or lack thereof. Signing a title is just an agreement that you are saying that property is considered a motor vehicle. Because a king grants title. A king says, that's a court jester. That's a toadstool. Right? That's what a title is. You're agreeing that automobile, as is defined by USC, I know I'm a Sobsit because I read the codes that your government puts out and you don't. So you're a Tardsit and I'm a Sobsit because I actually go to their words and terms and establish what the fuck I'm saying is not just me making shit up. So the federal code says it's an automobile. The UCC says household good. You go and sign a title saying you and everyone and your brother think that it's a motor vehicle. A motor vehicle is defined as a commercial instrument under U.S. code. An automobile is not. So it's not in your name. You're establishing that you believe that that is a motor vehicle to put it in their jurisdiction so they can regulate it as commercial property. Okay? Has nothing to do with recording who and what it is. It has nothing to do with registering. When you register, it's not in your name. It's in the name they've created for you that looks like your given and family name. That is not your name. Did you remember? You didn't watch the video of me, did you, on the side of the road with no license, registration, insurance, and plates, finally got a cop who knew the law and said to me, we understand you have a belief, we have a belief, and we can't enforce our beliefs onto you. But would you give us the name that's not your name, that the government gave you, that looks like your name? He actually said that verbatim. So it's not in your name when you register it. You're registering it in the person's name, and the person is subject to regulation and administration of the estate through the state of. Not your name. But you're not interested in the difference between a given and family name or a first and last name. You're not interested in a domicile versus a residency. You're not interested in a consumer versus a patron and all the rest of it. You're not interested in any of that. You're not interested in the words and terms and etymology. You're not interested in the dual jurisdiction. What you are interested in is being a retard who doesn't know the difference of words and terms, who keeps repeating words and terms your retarded family and friends told you to repeat. That gets you slaved the fuck out a dozen different ways to Sunday. Okay. So register is not record. The root word of register is of the king, regis. So when you register, you're not only not putting it in your given and family name, you're putting it in the name of your king, which is a state of corporation. As a citizen owing allegiance to United States, defined 1A USC, I believe it's 28, as a federal corporation, dummy. So it's not only not in your name, you're registering it as public state-owned property to be regulated by commercial code as a commercial instrument. Because you don't even know the damn difference between recording, registering, or titling something.
Paul, let's say there's a pregnant woman. She has a baby and she just dumps the baby off in the woods. And somebody finds the baby later. Baby has no name. What becomes of that baby?
That would be called salvaged title, right? Is that what they call it with the car? It's salvage title. Been left abandoned at sea.
A human being.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
You don't know, so you don't think it applies because it sounds unsafe, right, John?
It sounds unreasonable for
who's going to show up to court and say that anyone has any more interest and equity in that property than the man who found it and took care of it and fed it and clothed it and put time, energy, attention into it?
Well, yeah, but the point is that the name is really has no meaning to the individual.
No, it doesn't.
Something that's given to you so somebody can,
distinguish you from someone else. Exactly, yeah, exactly. But it has no bearing on the actual dynamics of power and value in co-creation. No, it doesn't.
That was my point.
So yeah, again, we're talking title versus status and standing. I can call you John and give title, but that's not your status and standing, right? So yeah, I mean, again, before the advent or the invention of the state of as a corporate body and capacity, all day, every day, men and women would say, we can't take care of this youngster. Who's going to take care of him? Somebody would take care of him. I know this is fucking shocking stuff, but this is the reality we live in. It goes on all day, every day now. Just because it's not on paper and official doesn't mean it's not happening. Hell, half of you folks or more, no, 85% of you folks, when you have children, let the state of and its corporate agents take care of your kids at least 8 to 12 hours a day. Who are we kidding? And part of the reason that happens is because you gave them a title, a status, and a standing that allows them to say, now you got to send them the public fool system. Now they got to have 15 vaccines. See, when you don't register, we're back to the words. This is not titling, registering your child as a product of the state of, which is what you're doing, just like your car. They can't impose obligations and duties and responsibilities onto you. They can't tell you you have to send your child to the public school system and get him 15 vaccines. Oh, no, they can't. But when you call yourself a U.S. citizen slave and you call the child a U.S. citizen to be, and you put everyone down as a withholding agent and a fellow trustee, they're going to impose duties and obligations onto you in the form of codes and policies. And they're going to ask you, why are you not going along with what the rest of us have agreed in the unspoken but written social contract here? What's your deal? You trying to overthrow that? You some kind of terrorist? Instead of you folks just saying, no, I'm out. Not going to register the now. If you want to record that being as being born on the land and you want to fill out the contracts properly and you want to have a name created for this being to use in commerce to get benefits and privileges but not sign the contracts, go have at it. I'm thinking about doing it myself just to have the experience. I'm going to go get a license. I'm going to go get all of it, not sign any of the paperwork, not agree, but have the cards in case I ever need to use them. But I'll never be obligated because I've never agreed on the documentation to contract and to give up my rights for benefits and privileges. So that's what I would suggest folks start learning how to do. Is you don't have to go all the other way like I've been doing and others and risk getting shot on the side of the road. It's real simple. Go take all their crap tests, fill out the paperwork properly in all caps, first and last name with the birth date / birth registration date. Make a notation. Hey, this isn't fraud. This child was born on this day. The birth registration was created on this day. So the birth registration date is the birth date, not the day that the man was born, the boy was born. The day that person was created, the birth registration. You can have that because you're going to enter that in and you're going to create another beingness in their world. And you're going to give me a card for it, like a credit card that says, I can use this person in your commercial venues and endeavors to get benefits and privileges. But nowhere did I contract out of my natural rights in order to get those benefits and privileges, right? It's very simple. Like the man says, NA on the paperwork. NA, I don't even sign my name. Whether it's in jail, leaving, I don't even touch it now at this point because they'll claim that you already signed it when they put an X right there. They'll used to say, leave your mark. And sometimes people would put an X. Well, every paper they give you, they already put an X on it. And then they'll claim you did that. That's your mark right there, the X. So that's why some people put NA and they put all rights reserved without prejudice. All the rest of this stuff is to communicate on the record, hey, I have this crap because if I don't, you fascists are going to shoot me. But I'm not relinquishing my religious godly claim or my natural rights in order to have benefits and privileges or access to the corporate system at the whim of my natural rights and personal choice. You can ride the line if you understand what's happening. As far as I'm concerned, they'll say that I'm crazy, but that's my understanding of what's happening and why it all applies or doesn't. And then they're going to play the game with you like they've been doing with this idea. They go, oh, but if you want that back, you got to come down and redo all the paperwork and, like Mr. Keith brought up one day, the idea of release paperwork, they're going to try to tell you, we're going to let you out of jail after the administrator already gave the order. The order sticks. I don't have to sign nothing. Well, in order for you to leave here, you got to sign the release paperwork. Well, release means to take out another lease. So you're signing paperwork saying that when you leave here, you're going back under certain conditions. You don't get to leave without a price. That seems to be part of the game. Hold on, I got to thank a couple people. Paul G says, for the show last 2 days, been amazing. Thank you. And Scott B says, inspirational motivation, authentic, much love ×2. And he said it twice, so you know it's real. What do you got, Tom?
I have a lot. Hey, I have a quick question. Has Salted Cedar ever been on panel?
Well, it's also, I want to answer this. It's also, here, Tom's going on patrol now. I see where this is going. It's illegal, so to speak, or unlawful for any organization to require your social security number. Do we get into that? The social security number says do not present as identification. The U.S. code says it's unlawful for anyone to say that they have to get it from you in order to provide you a service. So what's that about? Right? And why are more people not letting these people know? I don't have to give you my social security number to even apply for these benefits and privileges. But again, they want to use that number to take out a bunch of accounts on the back end and get paid 5 different ways, while then charging you privately a fee up front. They're taking $10 and $15 from you out of your pocket and then going back and using securitized instruments to get paid 2 and 3 times. because that's what actual money is a signed piece of paper. It's a securitized instrument. No, I don't believe Salted Cedar has ever been up on panel. And here's where you call them a bitch because they called you out in chat and they haven't been up on panel yet.
No, I won't call them a bitch because they called me out in chat. It was just the only time I've ever been censored here, I believe it was Salted Cedar. But anyway, I think they are a bitch. So since you brought it up. But so is Killer Green. Just want to put that out there too.
Yeah, you can't require a license for a lawful activity. And if it's a lawful activity, it doesn't need a license. Again, this has been ruled on at Supreme Court. You can't forego people's natural rights, require a fee, and then issue a license as a privilege to engage in a natural right. You know? So again, I'm not interested what people like this say, what they've been taught to live in fear all day, every day. Because it's nonsense. That's ridiculous. I don't want to risk my family's life driving on roadways with people that aren't capable of passing a driver's test. Passing a driver's test doesn't make you competent and capable. I mean, you're never going to do harm to yourself or others on the roadway. This is bizarre non-logic. And it's based in your feelers and what you want to be true. It's not based on facts and reality. All day, every day, you're on the road with incompetent, incapable, drugged up. All day long, you're on the roadway with incompetent, incapable, drugged up, and drunk people who could potentially harm you, license, registration, insurance, or not. One has nothing to do with the other. What you should be saying, if you had any kind of brain on you and balls, is you want competent, capable people who care about what's true and what's right, doing the next right thing. Licenses don't grant that, and the lack of licenses don't stop that. Can you get a clue of what it's like to be an actual man instead of a Karened out beta male who lives from their feelers and delusions all day, every day, instead of in reality with the facts?
Sasquatch doesn't even know the difference between, or he doesn't even know the definition of driving because he used that. So it's telling about his ignorance.
So you are saying a test doesn't actually prove that someone can drive? No, it doesn't. It's equivalent to saying because you go down to the local range and get a concealed carry permit means you know how to use a gun in a way that's not going to harm yourself or someone else. And all day, every day, jerk-offs have concealed carry permits that they took 20 minutes to get at some half-assed test, and they shoot themselves in the leg at a gun shop, pulling their gun out of their pocket and not having it secured properly. So no, it doesn't. Doesn't prove anything and doesn't stop people from being incompetent, incapable, or negligible or negligent.
Unless the test has changed, all it does is show that you can make a left, right, and park, right?
Make a left around the block, parallel park. Here's your license. Now give us $50. These folks are delusional and supremely disempowered, and they choose to live from their feelers out of fear than in reality of what's actually going on. Indisposable, I saw you back there. You got to wait sometimes, and you got to control your fear of being seen and heard on camera. I'll get to you. So you left now. You can come back. I do that to trigger. I don't really get into the beta and alpha thing beyond just communicating an idea. That from the beginning of time, whether it be a troop of monkeys or a community, there's certain men who stand up and stand out and do what's true and what's right, regardless of consequences, and they help to keep orders for the rest. Those were known as alphas. The betas were the ones who like to get uppity, try to play games, play power games, be a part of shit they really don't want to be a part of, right? And have to get the alpha in the mode of oriented toward justice. I don't care if it's a troop of chimpanzees or a group of people. These inherent hierarchical power and value dynamics exist. If you don't want to accept them because you don't want to believe they exist, that's your problem. I can show you and you can see it and I can explain it. And it's been that way from the beginning of time. Quite frankly, you can argue that one needs the other and the other needs the one. Everybody serves a purpose. It's based on what they see for themselves and what they choose to be part of or not. You know, it's not necessarily a static set of conditions that people are born into and have to stick into for the rest of their life. We can move from one aspect to the other. And there's different aspects in each of us, right? I'd say there's an alpha and a beta and a sigma, if you will, in everybody to some degree. You know, how much that's lived into, practiced, or expressed is a different conversation. So I don't necessarily live by the chimpanzee lingo, but I understand that life is life and there's life on life's terms, and any community or co-creative endeavor has certain power and value dynamics that tend to be consistently present. Let's hear from Mr. Indisposable. Put up our Donnie Chimp.
Can you hear
What
me?
can I do for you, Mr. Indisposable?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Killer Green from the chat.
Okay. Well, you got anything?
I was just wondering what Thomas's deal is with me, or if that's just the character he puts on.
I just don't care enough about you. I think you suck. I think you're a bitch. But otherwise, that's it.
Oh yeah. All right. That's
So
all.
this person says, Ortho Spidey, we are much different than monkeys. Can you outline that? Can you explain? I mean, you realize that Congress means a troop of monkeys, right? And most of the betas sit there pandering to false alphas at Congress about what they're going to do and be, just like chimpanzees would. So if you could explain to me what the huge differences are between monkeys and humans, I'd love to hear it and see it, but I don't think you can get it done. I think we're a lot more similar than you'd like to accept or believe.
Do you see Bernie Sanders trying to get RFK to admit that vaccines don't have anything to do with autism? Oh my God, it was funny as hell. I was laughing my ass off watching that shit.
I think it's crazy. Someone with the title Ortho Spidey is actually making arguments about not using titles like alpha and beta. It's really oxymoronish.
All right, I got to thank Julio. Says, I appreciate you. Much love, much love. Thank you, Mr. Julio. All right, where are we going with this? Do we get what we need, Hefe? Do we need to go over something before we get out of here? I'm about to wrap up.
No, I got everything. Yeah, I'm gonna redraft and then, make sure it's as short and as sweet as possible.
Best wishes with that, man.
What we get. Yeah. Even if nothing comes of it in the federal case, then I'm gonna start sending in more correspondence in the lower court, pushing for dismissal.
All right, we'll see where it goes, man.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate all the help on it. The
Yeah, we're here.
fellowship is it's phenomenal. It's invaluable. I wouldn't do any of this without a community of support. So I really appreciate it.
I think you're doing great, and it's challenging, especially if you haven't had to deal with it. You're just kind of jumping in or being pushed into the deep end. And from the outside looking in, I think you've got the right mental perspective and knowledge and ideas about how to approach it. And you come here for better advice from people who know it well. So I think you're on a very good path.
I want to know what this means. You got a shout out from Cinnamon Toast Ken. Do we know who that is or what they're about? Is that speaking about me, by the way?
I never heard the name.
Sasquatch doesn't even know the definition of driver, so they really don't matter.
Well, most people don't know the difference or that there's differentiation, and they're told by the locals that it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean anything, and don't listen to that. Forget about U.S. code. We don't follow that. Forget about any kind of legal, lawful definition. We don't follow that. We make up our own definitions. We do whatever we want. And it's like, on some level, that's true, but that only works because you play into their jurisdiction. It's like saying, if I invite you into my home and I tell you how we're going to run the party and I get you to sign a contract, you will adhere to that. Or I'm going to impose certain consequences. And again, like any other dynamic, this could be all technically flawed and you're still subject to the whims of history. Which means that even if they know that it's illegitimate and they don't have a right to rule you, they have their hands on the power buttons in and of the world. So they'll just say, well, we're not legitimate and technically we're wrong, but we're going to do whatever we want anyway. It's part of the experience here. If there were guarantees, it wouldn't be worth doing. It's worth doing because you don't get a guarantee and then you got to test yourself on who and what you are and where you stand. You know where most people stand? Exactly where Sasquatch and others stand. Oh, I'm not going to risk it. These are risk-averse people. And as it said from the beginning of time, fortune favors the bold. No risk, no reward. That's why most of these people who think like this and feel like this, more importantly, are supremely unsuccessful, not only at being a human being well-rounded, but pretty much anything they do. because they don't want to stand up and step out and take a fucking risk to get an ultimate reward. Look at the word reward. We've been over that. Reward. Well, who's the warden?
Or who's the ward?
Right. Who's the ward and who's the warden? Because I could argue my whole process here and other places is being rewarded. I'm being put under as a ward of God rather than a ward of the state, and that's why I've been rewarded. You think you're going to do that process without taking a risk, giving everything up to be given everything back, rejecting Babylon, and then not building a cross for yourself? That's not what the story says. You know, and again, I would contend that the Christed being from Scripture never would have got put on the cross if he didn't get physically violent with these people.
What's the quote where they talk about when it's easy to be a patriot or whatever? You know how it's like everyone will do it once it's easy or something.
I think I know what you're talking about, and I can't think of the quote.
It's very similar to the concept of like in a group, nobody wants to do a goddamn thing until the first 2 or 3 or 5 motherfuckers stand up, and then everyone jumps on it.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem with the majority of these people. They want to point their fingers and laugh, but as soon as shit hits the fan, they're gonna be changing their mind.
These are the same people who all came and got me, and they've all went away since because we've been 4 or 5 years out. These are all the same people who came to get me and showed up at the broadcast and in my DMs. Oh, I married a beta male. He's trying to stick 5 vaccines in my daughter. I didn't think this was going to happen. I think it's kind of crazy. Yeah, well, hello. Where you been at? That's the part of the communication, the co-creation, the fellowship. They want to hop into this shit late in the game when it's all come crumbling down, and then I got to tell them, listen, you picked them. You keep laying with them. You keep having children with them. You keep doing business dealings and act like your corruption's not going to catch up with you and everyone else. Your bad faith, dishonor, and lack of discernment's not going to catch up with you. That's not reality. So, you know, oftentimes in this life, right, we only learn when everything else is off the table, right? When everything gets real bad, that's when everyone starts waking up to what the fuck they should have been doing the whole time, right? Same thing with me and my gallstones and my issues with my body, right? It's all a party with pizza and pasta and ice cream till I can barely walk around and move and feel like I'm about to die. You know, so the dark side of force has a purpose to remind you what you should have been doing all along that we neglect because, hey, I'd rather have it my way instead of do it the way. Okay, see what comes with that. Hasn't worked yet. That's the problem with the collective conscious and unconscious false self of humanity. Our way hasn't fucking worked yet, and the way works every fucking time.
Paul, have you ever done the olive oil cleanse?
Yeah, I did it. I've done it all at this point, man.
But how many times did you do it? Because I did it like 4 times, you know, like over the course of 4 months. And I wasn't expecting to see anything, but a bunch of shit came out of me.
You can get results. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, as old people say, but olive oil with oregano that's been infused in it. You can do it with black cumin seed oil. You can do it with large amounts of coconut oil. You can do it with iodine. There's many ways to get rid of the toxins and parasites in your body.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it again after the first time, but I'm glad I did because basically you do it once and it just kind of breaks everything up, you know, gets everything loose, but it doesn't actually get it all out.
Louis Bastone, thank you. He says, fuck you, Sovset scum. Now, Louis, that's not nice. That's not nice. Yeah, okay. Susquehanna Hat Company, as they used to say in the Three Stooges, right? The cheap hats.
Can't believe you remember that shit. How the fuck do you know?
Susquehanna Hat Company. Come on, John.
I can't believe you bringing this stuff. It baffles me. It really does.
Susquehanna McConnell, I got to let you go, man, because you keep asking questions and you're not listening to answers. Nobody's doing what they're doing who was supposed to be doing what they're doing because some dude on the internet told them. I'm just repeating to others what they already know in their heart. If you don't know that to be true for you in your heart, then just go elsewhere. You're here for a reason. You don't even realize you're here asking these questions because the deepest part of you is dying to be free and empowered. You won't recognize it. but you'll keep asking obvious rhetorical questions to where we walk you down the line to where you finally see yourself for what you really are. I'm not interested. I'm done doing this process with you people. Go let the universe teach you, especially when I'm in pain. I'm not doing this 15 fucking questions that all lead back to the same answer I've given you over and over again in various different ways. It's not going to change. I have a conviction in my heart. I always pretty much have. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do, and I'm not going to be told in this life who and what to be by anyone around me other than my own conscience and my moral compass. And you can get fucked trying to cause loss, injury, and harm to me, trying to get me to do it. I told my parents that. I told my teachers that. I told everyone that until it became apparent to me what I need to do and be to be better for me. So I learned the hard way, but at least I learned. You motherfuckers never try and you never learn. Okay? So I don't know how else to put it other than that.
Susquehanna is one of these guys that needs policy enforcement. They need a daddy. They need code to abide by. They have to have laws for them because they can't govern themselves at all.
Right, that's the point. Is some of us here want integrity and self-respect, self-worth, and self-esteem, and you can't get that being somebody's pet and bitch and slave. So if you don't want true self-respect, self-empowerment, integrity, right, inspiration, and personal choice, then you shouldn't give a fuck about what I'm doing and what I want. Why you guys give a fuck is because you can't believe I got it and you don't. And you still want to talk to me like you got some other mechanism to get them when you don't. I know me, so I know you. This is such a ridiculous dance and game you folks play. Like, we all know you're disempowered, uninspired, have none of your own personal choice. You're a kept pet slave and a bitch, and you have no integrity. Your own women and children know it, so of course I know it. I know me, so I know you. And there's going to be no other way to get it other than the way I and others are getting it. You don't stand for something, you fall for anything here. So, hey, if you're okay with it, going along to get along, having no self-respect, personal choice, or integrity, you like it, I love it. I'm doing this for me, and by doing it for me, I'm doing it for everyone else. Because I'm giving everyone an opportunity that I gave myself or was available through God in the universe for me. Same thing that's available for you. You don't want to take it. You don't have to. I'm perfectly fine being inspired, empowering, self-respecting, having integrity, not going for slavery and genocide, and upholding the law and going to court and making a difference here, as far as I can tell, or just being a part of the game and in the arena. You don't want that, then you know where to go and what to do. The same thing you've always been doing, but you won't. You'll sit up under me, project onto me, ask me rhetorical questions, play obtuse. You know, a lot of you folks don't have to try hard to play obtuse, but you even go the next level, right? You're obtuse anyway in your life. You can't see. You don't have any acute discernment, but you want to like go extra on it. Why is Paulie doing this? It just doesn't make sense. But you won't listen to what I'm saying. So maybe we're different. I feel like a coward and a bitch being told what to do from morning to night, whether it's by my mama, my daddy, my wife who acts like my mama, friends, family, coworkers, wherever. I don't like the feeling of being told constantly what to do and be and not have any of my own say in it. And then be told I'm going to pay you to do it. Not into it. You guys like getting beaten and whipped and cucked out and penetrated because it's your fetish. I'm not into it. Don't know how else to explain it to you. And I'm probably never going to be able to explain it or get it known to people who love getting bent over, cucked out, and not having any empowerment or personal choice in their life. And no, that doesn't mean I lack empathy. There's a difference between being told what to do and doing it because you know it's true and what's right versus doing it because you're scared of what's going to be done to you if you don't. True power versus false power. Co-creation versus coercion. Folks who are going to come here and forget that they made a 1,000 movies off all this crap already. Just go watch Braveheart and The Patriot and all the rest of it. Stop arguing with me. Because it's the same exact core beingness and spirit and sentiment that drives the being to tell them, go back to your beds and sit there and be a weak-ass bitch till the day you die and never stand for nothing. I'm going to die here today if I have to.
I think
that's
those movies are
for a reason.
created to relieve the frustrations we have within us. We go see those movies and it relieves all that we have against our own enslavement.
Yeah, you get to watch somebody live the life you're meant to live and then cope with the fact that you're never going to step into that and be your own hero.
Yeah, I don't think people put that together though.
Well,
They know
most
our
folks don't put
psychology.
anything together. We're just entertained, John. It's like you're entertained because your deepest part of yourself and subconscious wants to be the hero in your story, but you accept the character of either the villain or the NPC. And then when you have someone show up in your life who's attempting the main character, you say, he's got main character syndrome. Look how arrogant he is. No, I'm just searching for some level of confidence, trust, and faith in myself and in this life. And I'm getting it. That's the authentic, organic life lived fully, right? That is the hero's journey. That is the coming to completion, actualization, and realization. And it's a lifelong process, you could argue. Well, part of that process is facing death. These are the same people who sit around every day. Why would you want to confront your death and have to think about that so negative? Oh, again, these are people in life who they want no power and little actual value and just are comfortable in and of the world, being told what to do and be. I've never been oriented toward that, you know? So once I started to really look within and realize where I was oriented, I started running at a certain point. I haven't stopped since. And there's more being revealed. There's more tests and challenges. There's more to know or understand or just apply.
I lost my best and only friend recently. It sucked. I just want to say God bless him, and I hope he's there in peace.
All right, give me some final words.
Dude, you want me to show you what happened to me again last night? I got better pictures this time, and I talked to a water expert today.
What, did you squirt? John, that's not squirting, right?
Why the fuck do I talk to you? No, it happened
That's
again.
rectal discharge. That's not squirt, John. I don't care what that water expert says.
Do you remember what I showed you the other day, right?
I don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Oh, my God. Do you want me to show you or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, hang on. Let me get my phone. I took the pictures on the iPhone this time.
You know, somebody's of a certain generation when they use the word "the" before certain subjects, like the iPhone or.
You know, someone's from a certain generation when every hair on their body is white or gray, including on their nutsack. I'm not saying I know that to be true. I'm just saying I'm guessing.
No, it's true. It's true.
John's got frosted bush. That's how you know. Someone's from a when he's got snow on the roof and in the furnace.
But you know what sucks? When I get out of the shower, my hair looks dark. It pisses me off. When it's wet, it looks dark.
He lives on that state where they frack and the water comes out brown.
Oh, dude, last 2 days,
You can
man.
light it on fire.
My water heater went in the basement. I was sopping up water for 2 days, man. And I can't believe the cost of a water heater now. Holy fuck. I almost died when they told me how much it was.
You got it.
Is
you
that
fucking
installed?
cheap
Yeah,
dingo.
I got it.
You fucking got it, you cheap fuck.
Okay. Let me see if I can get this in the right spot here. Same glass. Can you see it?
Oh, it was the sword thing, huh? Now
It's right out of the. This happened last night. This is the third time within a month. Now I got a couple more pictures. One from the side, so you can see how tall it is. It's taller than the depth of the water. Now it's
I
impossible.
can't tell what it is.
It's a stalagmite icicle coming out of my glass of water that I put in the freezer. It just grows out of the water, out of the center. And it can't happen. I talked to that water expert today. It just can't. It can't happen. It's another picture.
Oh, okay, I can see it now.
And the water expert was the guy from the plumbing company that replaced my water.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But he said the same thing too. It's impossible, and it is impossible. But it's happening.
You know, and I might have to put you as lead investigator on my new Bigfoot content.
Hey, I'd be glad to walk around the woods with you, buddy.
Yeah, I might have to make another channel too, and we have to try to grow that. Paul Enslaved in search of Bigfoot.
You gotta do some searching though.
It'll just
Paul
be
to the
nothing but
wall.
Bigfoot content. Yeah, Paul's to the wall. We're exploring the ice wall and everything in between. Yeah, I'm strongly considering branching out and doing an arc of content, just because I feel like
It might be good for your soul, dude.
Right.
I'm telling you, the flat earthers, that's a untapped well right there.
Is that Thomas? Did Thomas say that?
No, that's me, Hefe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Because I know Thomas would have said that sarcastically.
All right, let's go. Give me a final word.
No,
I'm getting out of here. Go to Slackcots if you want to kick around and eat crudité and talk about your cat and your ice cubes.
If you get a chance, go to Minutes of Horror channel. There's this thing going on in LA, man, where these people along the 101, there's all these places where people are putting help on the ground. Help, FBI. They're claiming it's because of the trafficking, the human trafficking going along the 101 in LA. But I don't know. It's weird. I mean, they got aerial shots and it's all over.
Imagine people wanting the human traffickers to come help them. I mean, this is the world you live in. They're like, hey, will you professional human traffickers come help us? These guys aren't doing it right.
But if it's true, what I
send Agent Epstein to come investigate. like when the 9/11 Commission investigated itself and found no wrongdoing. Yeah.
Jeeps. Are you sure it's CGI?
We send the gardener from Epstein Island to investigate the human trafficking charges. You find no wrongdoing.
Jeeps likes to pick on me a lot.
CGI. I don't know what. She's always got. She's always got a theory. This broad down there.
Quite disturbing, if true. I'm just saying, if true, it's quite disturbing.
Yeah, I saw what you're talking about, John, with the with all the help stuff. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's a real problem. I'm sure that there's people out there.
They're saying the LAPD is totally corrupt and they will receive no help from them. That's why they're asking the FBI for help or stuff. I don't know. It was disturbing seeing that for sure. Am I boring you, Paul?
Here's where it's just I'm always dumbfounded, literally dumbfounded. I feel like I found a bunch of dumb people who like, why are you just leave? Stop being on LA, stop being a part of whatever. Like, am I off on this? These people, like, they're sitting, it's like the fire people. They just sat in a fucking suburb for the last however many years till it all burned up and now they're crying. I was here yelling and screaming to no avail. The majority of folks, they didn't want to listen. They didn't care. So now you want help instead of picking up and doing something else. I don't know what to tell anyone. I don't know, where's that help coming from? Where's all this help in reality that's not coming from you and your community and family? What, the FBI is going to give you help now? The CIA? That's where we're at. That's the level we're at. We're so disempowered and incommunicado, we're just going to put signs on the ground and hope that the CIA shows up like Pleiadians to save us.
If we were allowed to do what the Second Amendment give us the right to do, this shit wouldn't be fucking happening.
Here we go, John. No one's stopping anyone from defending themselves with lawful property and going to court and explaining it. I don't know what to tell anyone. Bernie Getz shot like 8 black people in a New York subway and did 2 years. And that's because he probably hired an attorney and they had to come to some agreement, right? If he just showed up and said, listen, I love black people, but not these 6. They tried to rob me like every day on the subway and I had to shoot them. I don't want any part of that. I'm not shooting anyone. I'm staying in my lane, minding my business. I'm going to be in the mountains and forests of Oregon, growing and living a rather peaceful life in between getting arrested for not following policy and code. So I got enough on my plate. And when the inevitable happens, I'm sure I won't be putting, snow angels for the CIA and FBI. I'm sure I won't be, writing in the sand like Castaway with Wilson.
This world's just so fucked up, man. You don't know where to look anymore. Or what's the right
go direction. Cry about it, John. Go get with Slackhot and the others and cry about it. Let's just cry about it. Oh, the world's so fucked up. It's so hard.
Because I can't find the proper direction to move in to change something for the positive.
This is so laughable. We live in literally the most pampered, fucking privileged corporatocracy generation ever. You got like food constantly in the room with you. You have like little to no tests and challenges. You do the bare minimum and you can somehow live with a king's ransom like Slackhot and others.
Dude, I was
And
stopping up
it's so
water
hard
for
and
2 days.
difficult. People just being burned at the stake for like talking at one point, being put in a dungeon with rats forever, just whole families killed, you know. And they're crying to me about how there may be some tests and challenges to get some rights and freedom restored and recognized.
John, I get where you're coming from, but I mean, you're in the right spot because this is the right direction to go. It's the only direction to go, really.
Dude, I don't know who this guy is in chat, but the chat below that, I have no idea who that is. He's saying I said something about him. I have no idea who
All
it
right,
is.
final words. This is my point. Final words. I don't want to do this.
That's my final word. I have no idea who you are, dude. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's like this, moron. This is the okay. We can make it whatever you want it. Why are you still here? This is the softest channel ever. We're scared to be challenged. That's why we blocked you. You're right. We're wrong. Move on. It's you're in delusion and denial, and you know it. Why even type that all out when you know you're in delusion and denial? You're the softest bitch ever because there's a link down there. You won't address me, and we don't want to watch you cycle and spin in the chat. You're boring and you're an interference. So I throw you the fuck out. Right? But you can believe whatever you want it to be. Cope however you want to cope. Just do it somewhere else. All right, come on. I want to get out of here. I've been hurting this whole time, and I want to
get the fuck out of here, man.
All right, go fuck yourself, John. My second used to be favorite white guy who brings nothing here but heartache. I love you, John. I'll say it twice. Much love, much love. That's how you know it's real. But I appreciate John. You know, we kid, we talk shit. Get the hell out of here, John. Because if not, I'm gonna sit around here and languish and ramble and rant. And I'd rather just cut the cord. There's always tomorrow. I do 7 days a week here, right? Please. I just saw you people. You just saw me. You know the thing already. Give me a final word. Come on, give the people a final word.
All right. Let the lie come into the world, but not through me. The simple step of a courageous individual is not to take part in the lie.
There it is. All right, Hefe, I'm going to put you out. All right, I'm calling it. It's official. We're back tomorrow, somewhere between 12 and 5 MDT. And blessings, especially to the loser, failure, jealous, envious haters who project and reject and spin and cycle, but can't keep it real with themselves or others here or anywhere else. Pray for them, right? Don't pray for me, pray for the weak. Paul Unconvinced on the way out.
Hey, who the fuck you think you're talking to, huh? You wanna fuck? Who the fuck you think I am? Fucking dumb boy? Dumb brother. You wanna go to war? Come on. You wanna go to war? We'll take you to war, okay?
This is an arduous task. You need discipline and will. There's no.
I'm pausing the outro because I just remembered something. While it's on my mind, because I forgot about it. It's not that important, but it came up in my mind. Andrew Wilson, you're a bitch. I saw you at that speakeasy slave house yesterday. It went live with 80 people. I seen you on Slack Hots with your goofy ass wife who looks just like you. It's one of those things where when you get a dog, they start to look like the owner and vice versa. So I'm calling you out. Someone run this back to Andrew Wilson. You're a bitch. You only go places with dumb people and cowards so you can seem like the most smartest and bravest guy in the room. You know about me like others, but you won't come here because you know what you're going to get. I'm out of here.
Nothing fucking guaranteed. That's called being a man in life. Where else in life do you get fucking guarantees exactly? Can you find something in life being a fucking man that you get a guarantee over and isn't worth doing because it's difficult, testing, challenging, and requires something of a motherfucker to get it done? Where are we at here? Seriously, what fucking realm am I in? Bunch of inauthentic corporate beta males who want to just say shit that makes no sense and avoid the inherent hierarchical power and value systems, meaning and purpose and principles written into the cosmos and the fabric of reality. One with self in conscience. Would you please stop? We're done. I'm done with you.
Listen to me.
If I can see you and know you, the damn universe and whatever runs it can see you and know you, and it's doling out as we speak. I'm saying you got to bang it out sometime. I'm saying you got to go to a box sometime. I'm saying you got to put some shit on record, surrender in faith, and not know where it's going to end up. That's the whole point of doing what I do, because nothing is guaranteed. It's called cosmic gambling, you bitch-ass motherfucker, and you wouldn't know nothing about it because fortune favors the bold, and you're not fortunate. You're an unfortunate slave. I can tell by looking at you. That's why we're in slavery and genocide, because weak fucking bitch-ass males create hard times. Go ask the Hopis who prophesied that. Don't argue with me. They're supposed to hate. If they ain't hating, right, then we ain't doing what's true and what's right. How many motherfuckers you think were hating on the Christ of being in scripture for walking around like he had a pair? For telling everybody and their mother and brother, you better hate your own father and mother if necessary to ride with this God in truth. They forget how that being was walking around telling them, you're a status fucking infidel swine, and so are they, and you better come out of her, my people, or we're all going into judgment. You folks still haven't figured out the only reason I got to this point is because I abolished my ego and aligned with universal law completely. What you perceive as ego is your ego and narcissism you're projecting onto me. I've killed off my false sense of lower self to unite with a higher sense of self to do what needs to be done for all of us. That's the absence of ego, not the abundance of it. Projecting fuck slaves. The egotistical, narcissistic ones are the ones who haven't done what I've done yet and continue to not do it because their fear runs their life. They're not faithful in truth. They're afraid of the damn truth, and they run the opposite direction into the arms of their captors, right? Or into a purgatorial state of delusion. Either way, same outcome, unactualized, unrealized, spiritually dead, back to the recycling pit for you. See if we can get it in the next slide.
Disgusting.